How are you, Commissioner?
Well, maybe we can just.
I talked to Kevin today, he was going to personally invite you to Friday. I said, yes, I told him. 10:30.
I had this sign on my car out there. And somebody said,
If you can make it.
the camera's up.
Well, it's better airport.
I know, but
At airport, but hoping to do that. Anyway.
Yes. Okay.
Good evening and happy December board meeting. Thank you for everybody coming. We've asked Betsy Kofia, our representative, to lead us in the pledge in a moment of silence.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Clerk, read the roll, please.
Commissioner Kramer,
Present.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
Present.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Present.
Chairman Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Ross,
Here.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Here.
Commissioner Loudner. Present, all present.
Thank you. Thank you. We now have some minutes we can approve if we're ready. We have 4 sets of minutes that the clerk's office is prepared. Do I have any motions? Mr. Lautner.
I would move to approve budget work session of Tuesday, August 29th, 2023. I will keep going if you'd like these in one motion or still anybody want them divided. Not seeing anything. Special session Thursday, November 9th, 2023. Committee of the whole, November 28th, 2023, and executive board session of Tuesday, December 5th, 2023.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0. Thank you. We now have a tentative agenda before us. Couple of changes that I'd like to propose, and then we'll take it from commissioners. The late edition request, which is under consent agenda number 1, that was a request that goes with item number 16 on the action agenda, the beta issue. So we will not be dealing with the late edition request in a consent agenda. And we also need to take off, because commissioners had not seen the documents, we need to take off from the consent agenda number 11, item 1 and 2, the General Appropriations Act resolution and the budget rules, and we will move those down to combine with 11, the Finance Committee recommendations.
So 11 A and B.
Yes.
B1.
Any other suggestions, additions, deletions? Should I have a motion?
A move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support. All those.
I just have a comment. My only comment is it's fine to move number 11B 1 and 2 down. I really don't have a problem with it. As I said prior to the meeting, it's relatively simple, recommended by our attorney, written by our attorney. At some point, I think there ought to be some discussion, because I do not know why that was not put in our executive packet on Tuesday. I know the documents were available while it wasn't put in. I do not know. And why this just came to light at the 11th hour, I do not know. So we have a real problem with process. So we just need to look at that in future.
Okay. Jamie, Commissioner Kramer.
Are we just talking about the consent, or are we moving into action as well? To the ones right here at the entire. Okay, I am hoping that the board might entertain the idea of moving to closed session for the discussion on that.
If we can take that at, when we get to item 16 on the agenda.
Sounds good.
Get that as a motion. That time. Any other discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. We have an agenda. Thank you. We now will have our administrator update, followed by Representative Sophia.
As a follow-up to Commissioner Lautner's comments, I did send an email out to the board earlier, and I believe you have this packet in front of you. So just for clarification, we have requested twice from the administrative office documents that were related to the both the fiscal year 2024 General Appropriations Act resolution revisions that were recommended at the Finance Committee meeting, as well as the budget rules. They had not been received by our office. So what you have in front of you today is the email that Clerk Crocker provided. That was communication from the interim finance director, Kathy Hartsfeld, and Commissioner Lautner today at 3:45 regarding the documents with the red lines. So we did not have these documents to be able to provide for you. They were not provided at last week's meeting. And so that
were provided at last week's meeting.
we didn't have copies of them. So I'm just sharing that these were included for your review since you will be asked to move forward on those documents.
Thank you.
And other than that, I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday season. Of course, Merry Christmas, Shalom, happy holidays, all of those good things. Please enjoy the cookies. They are a Christmas gift for me to everyone here, so enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's why they all came.
Let them eat cookies.
Any questions for the administrator? Thank you. Thank you so much, Representative Kofia, for coming and giving us an update, and thank you for being here, and please join us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Leelanau County Commissioners. It's very good to be back with you this evening. Thank you for making some time for me on your agenda. I think I was last before this full commission this summer. I don't remember if it was June or July. It's a bit of a blur because it's been a busy year, but did a first quarter report at that time and wanted to do sort of an end of year update as well. So I, as you all know, I'm the state representative for the new 103rd district. And just to remind everybody here and who's watching at home, everything got redrawn, the puzzle pieces got shifted around. And with the new district lines, I have all of Leelanau County, a small portion of Benzie County, and I was with their county commission this morning doing the same update, and then half of Grand Traverse County as well. So as a former county commissioner, I said it this summer, and I will always say it again. I just want to appreciate and acknowledge the work that you do. I have a strong appreciation for your role, having sat in your seat in Grand Traverse County, and I wanted to focus my report on issues that I thought through a county governance lens, and maybe things that don't always get the headlines, but might be of interest in terms of bills that we've passed, policies that are moving, and things that I have heard from constituents. We share a lot of the same constituents in my 4 years as a county commissioner, as well as over the past year, and certainly last year, knocking with my team about 45,000 doors. Common themes like housing, mental health, et cetera, public safety. So I'm going to briefly run through a quick set of updates. This is not comprehensive. The legislature has passed about 200 bills this year, and I'm proud to say over 150 of them were bipartisan, had a lot of bipartisan support. We are on in-district work period through January, when we will resume session, as well as committees. And part of the reason for the timing of sort of sending us back to our district, I wanted to just briefly explain. There are a lot of different moving parts to that decision, but some of it had to do with the 2024 tax season and some bills that we passed back in February, March of this year that we wanted to make sure go into effect to get some money back into the pockets of constituents this coming 2024 tax season. So I'll focus on two items. Back in the winter of 2023, we repealed the 2012 pension tax. The state chose at that time, the legislature and the governor at that time chose to tax public and private pensions. And I disagreed with that move, and many of my colleagues did as well. And so we did do a graduated repeal. We wanted it to start this year, but we couldn't quite get enough. There are some rules in the legislature where you have to have a certain number of votes beyond a bare majority to have it take effect right away. And we didn't quite meet that threshold. So the next best thing was to, sort of adjourn for this year and trigger it in time for 90 days after that adjournment so that it will go into effect for the 2024 tax season. So this will mean essentially that about 500,000 Michiganders who are currently having their public or private pensions taxed will begin to see roughly $1,000 back into their accounts as we phase out the retirement tax starting in tax season 2024. The other piece, a vote that we took early this year that we wanted again to go into effect to get money back into constituents' pockets as of the 2024 tax season is something called the Earned Income Tax Credit or the Working Families Tax Credit. And also in 2012, and I remember this one vividly because I was a Head Start social worker working with working class families, the Alice population, frankly, in the Leelanau, Grand Traverse, and Benzie County area at that time. And the EITC or Earned Income Tax Credit was for working families. They were going to work, making a wage, bringing home a paycheck, but at a fairly low income threshold. And at the time, it was 20% of their federal return, they would get a tax credit back into their pocket. The legislature at the time and the governor, they cut that down to 6%. And so for me, working with about 35 families, I knew that meant, fixing the dryer, fixing the car. It was a payment that they were counting on to take care of some necessities, and that was a hit. So we earlier this year, we were able to expand the Earned Income Tax Credit, and we actually expanded up to 30% of federal. So when you think about the 43 or so % of Alice population households who live in Leelanau County, this is money that we wanted to go back into their pockets, and it will starting this tax season. And I did get some numbers I'm always interested in how many households we're talking about that this will affect in my district. And the Michigan League for Public Policy has given us an analysis. It should be about 5,000 households in the 103rd district. Combined with state and federal, it's a couple $1,000s that they will see in the Earned Income Tax Credit. And the economic impact for the region for a year, money going back into local businesses, is estimated about $3 million. So just wanted to give you a little bit of context for some of the things we wanted to trigger to go into effect 90 days from November when they sent us home for in-district work period. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about some bills that have moved on housing. I'm going to talk a little bit about a bill related to speed limits. You remember when I was here this summer, we were talking about the issue with Shabbytown and wanting to address speed limits there, as well as Leland. Yes. So I have some updates on speed limits and public safety bill, as well as a bill package that I'm a part of on guardianship, and then I will round out with mental health. So if you want to follow along, there's four quick pieces. So housing, I think when I was here this summer, we had already expanded brownfield. Do you recall me mentioning that at the time? When I was a commissioner, I was always frustrated that we could not use brownfield funds to address housing because that's such a need in our region. So that was a very bipartisan effort. We expanded it, and I was gratified to hear at the Housing Summit down in Traverse City that Housing North hosted in October. Some of you may have been there. Some of our local communities are already putting that into place. So I don't know if your brownfield board has looked at it yet, but Antrim County, their county commissioner, yes, their county commissioner was saying that they dusted off their brownfield, which they said they hadn't used in, she couldn't remember how long, and they're building a set of units that will house 90 people. So if you're right, but you're already on it, you're working on it. So great to hear. It's good to see policy actually be useful to local communities. That is the idea. Since then, there's different things we are looking at, but one that I wanted to get on your radar, there's something called a missing middle housing bill. And this is a Senate bill that passed through the full Senate. It also has passed through my Economic Development and Small Business Committee, and I did vote for it there. And I was kind of frustrated. I really wanted us to vote it out of the House and get it to the governor's desk, and it didn't quite make it over the finish line, but I'll be pushing for it when we're back in session. Essentially, the missing middle housing bill, it would expand the Housing Community Development Fund in the state housing, MISHDA, the Housing Development Authority, and increase eligibility to household incomes up to the 120% of area median income in our various respective communities. And it would also, it has another piece, which I didn't mention yesterday for those who were at my coffee hour. I apologize, I missed this detail. It also decouples the current requirement that it would have to be contiguous to a downtown for the funding to be applicable. So giving more flexibility. And when you think about small rural communities, we need more flexibility for those dollars. Missing middle, as I said, is area median income. At my coffee hour yesterday, I had a gal raise her hand when I said, what is the missing middle to you? She said, well, that's me. I said, well, say more. She said, I'm a nurse. My husband's a nurse. We make pretty decent wages, but we are really struggling to find any kind of housing that we can afford. So it's nurses, it's teachers, it's firefighters, it's police, it's a lot of folks who are making middle-class incomes, but again, with our geographically blessed area, the housing prices being so high, it's just pricing out a lot of our workforce. So that is something that I'm excited about. Again, it made it through the Senate, it made it through my committee, and hopefully we'll see it move soon in the new term. And again, another tool to be put on the table for local communities to utilize. Speed limits and public safety. Paige Sykes, is Paige here tonight, by the way? Okay, so Paige from Leland was here at the meeting when I was here in June or July speaking to you before, but she had flagged a bill that she thought could be helpful to the issue of speed limits there in Leland. And I think it could also be helpful for the Peshabi issue. There is a representative named Bradley Slaw. He's a Republican from Zeeland. I believe he used to work in local government, but he has a bill where, in lay people's terms, it's giving more flexibility for looking at a community where the concern is that the speed is too high, that it's a safety issue. And right now we know, you have to have MDOT and MSP involved, and they do a speed study, and it may actually backfire the way current the Michigan Vehicle Code is written and force you to actually escalate the speed based on what the 85 percentile, how fast 85% or so of people are going. That's not the direction we want to be going, obviously, with a speed study. And so his bill, long story short, and I have a really good detailed House Fiscal Agency summary that gets into a lot more of the weeds on how this will work, but it's creating more flexibility. It's allowing them to perhaps not have to do a speed study and use some other factors in order to decide to perhaps lower a speed limit in a particular community. It's giving more flexibility, and it's also playing with a current sort of way that the math works with the speed study that sort of forces it to go up. It's allowing more flexibility for it to potentially go down. So I'm not doing a great job of explaining, but in lay people's terms, I think this is a good bill. I did vote for it. It came through the full House, came through committee, came through the full House in November. I voted for it, and I'm hopeful to see it move through the Senate quickly, again, with the idea of giving local communities more flexibility, tools, and maybe less frustration when you're trying to deal with a practical issue. So if you would like the House fiscal analysis, please reach out to me or my team, and we'll send it over. It's pretty concise and gets into a little more of the technical detail. Also, I think maybe some of you were on the meeting, but the M22 Pure Michigan Byways work group that MDOT had been promising they were going to reestablish has launched. Is anybody on that? Okay, Commissioner Ross. And my team and I will be attending those meetings as well, just again with the interest of being at the table and listening for ways that we can be supportive. And if you need us to nudge, we can help with that too, with MDOT. Okay. Really quickly, I thought this one was interesting. We voted through the House in November a bill that has to do with qualifications to run for sheriff. This was something that was actually put forward by a former sheriff, Republican Representative Bagol. I forget, oh, he used to be the Shiawassee County Sheriff. And what it does, and I voted for this, it passed with strong bipartisan support and is on its way to the Senate. Right now, you're not required to have any law enforcement or corrections background to be a sheriff. And he felt like it was appropriate to build in some minimum requirement that you have some experience in that role to be elected sheriff. So just for awareness, he was not saying that anybody who's currently sheriff shouldn't be doing their job. It was more just, he felt like for best practices that was appropriate to build in some requirements. Okay, I have two more things. Guardianship. I just feel like I have a lot to throw at you all at once. This is a bill package that I'm a sponsor on. It's a fairly technical and broad package of 5 bills, and this is shout out to my Republican colleague up in Gaylord, Ken Borton, who is one of the returning members who is on the package. I'm a freshman on this package, but I don't know if any of you have seen the Record Eagle coverage of some of the really concerning issues where people are appointed an official guardian or conservator. And while many, probably most people who are given that role are good, ethical people who are doing their best to take care of someone's personal and financial affairs, there are abuses, financial and otherwise, that occur. Roughly 73,000 vulnerable seniors and vulnerable adults in Michigan annually that we can tell are victims of this type of financial exploitation or other types of abuse. And frankly, this is something, this package to try to address some of these issues is a very long time coming. The Michigan Supreme Court and other entities as far back as 1997, when I was 2 years out of high school, it's been a little while, they did a study on this exact issue, and they had a task force and they had a set of recommendations to try to build in protections for vulnerable seniors and adults and accountability, enforcement, and investigatory processes. And the vast majority of what they recommended never happened. So here we are today. We have some really terrible cases. One heartbreaking one that I heard when the Attorney General, myself and the other reps testified in front of our committee was the day after a person was appointed guardian, they had one of those construction bins, sort of the garbage bins, those huge ones, outside a person's home, everything they owned thrown into the bin, including all sorts of personal valuables, and immediately put them in a home, sold the home without an appraisal, you know, and that's one snapshot. There was a gentleman who's in his 90s up in Petoskey who had his guardian spend almost his entire life savings on really frivolous things for her personal gain that had nothing to do with his care. And one of the things we've identified is that once you're assigned a guardian or conservator, it's incredibly difficult to exit that arrangement. Very difficult. So my bill in the package, this larger package, would establish an Office of State Guardianship, training, resources, in some cases, compensation for professional guardians, a lot of support for lay guardians, and a key piece, a responsible entity for direct investigation and enforcement, whether it rises to the level of actually criminal behavior, which sometimes does happen, or if there's just a guardian is taking on far too many people and is not really able to provide the kind of oversight that is needed, and the person is suffering from that situation. There's just no point of the spear right now. It's scattershot across the state. So this is a bill package that I'm a part of, and we did advance those bills through the House, and I'm hopeful that we can move them through the Senate soon. Again, this has been a problem for a very long time, and we have an aging population in Michigan. But for me, it really bothers me that the recommendations have been around since I was 20. I'm 46. It's time. We need to address and move these protections into place. And then lastly, and then I have a quick by the numbers for the district for the first year. But lastly, around the issue of mental health access, affordability, workforce. This is another big issue that I know comes in front of you folks. It certainly did for me as a commissioner, and I hear a lot about it from constituents. We are dealing with a mental health crisis in our state, in our country. And my orientation is what are the ways that we can support people getting access to the care that they need. So there is a current bill that made it through the Health Policy Committee that I'm on, and made it to the House floor. Didn't quite make it. It hasn't been put up for a vote yet because there's been some pushback on it. But it's a mental health parity bill, and it would require insurance companies to actually cover mental health at the level that they are covering physical health. Right now, we're hearing from families and folks who their loved one is in the middle of a mental health crisis and they need coverage for, let's say, 30 days of maybe inpatient treatment or some similar situation. And the insurance company is covering maybe 5 days and they're having to make up all of the difference with, what, take out a loan, spend savings. They're already in the middle of this crisis and our insurance companies are unwilling to cover to the level that is really necessary. So this is a parity bill. It's being worked on directly with mental health practitioners, and I'm very eager to see it pass. If this is something that you have interest in and would like to support, please reach out to me separately. I'm encouraging folks at the local level to maybe send letters of support. I really think this one is long overdue. A bill that we did pass through health policy and just voted through the House last month has to do with telehealth. You all might remember a few years ago, nobody thought, or not very many people thought of having an appointment virtually on Zoom for outpatient, whether it's behavioral health or an outpatient visit. But due to COVID and other factors, insurance companies were required to compensate the telehealth visit at the same level as an in-person, and that is in the process of being sunset. We think we should keep it. Nearly 40% of patients now are actually utilizing the telehealth option, and it's working well for them. Again, whether it's behavioral health, a therapy appointment, or just talking to your primary care physician virtually. And when I think about that one, it's especially important to me because if you think about a more rural setting, that could be incredibly helpful for people to be able to get the care they need from their home and have their insurance cover and have the provider be compensated at the same level as an in-person visit. So that one passed the House, and I'm going to be pushing to see if we can get it through the Senate in the coming year. All right. Again, there's certainly lots more going on, but I wanted to get to some of the things that don't always make the headlines that I think are germane to the district. Finally, in-district engagement by the numbers in my first year. You all hopefully know I do coffee hours once a month in all 3 counties. The one for Leelanau County is here. In this room, it's available downstairs if this room is being used, but it's the second Monday of every month at 3 p.m. You are always very welcome, and I appreciate, many of the commissioners and members of the community have attended. We've done 30 coffee hours so far for this year. We're out of time here. I'm going to flag really quickly. I've been thinking a lot about the coffee hour and availability. We have a lot of people who are working 9 to 5, 8 to 5, and they may not be able to access our coffee hours. So we're going to be thinking in the new year about offering some evenings, some weekend, maybe at the library when people are bringing their kids for story hour, those sorts of things, to try to be more accessible to folks who are not as available during the day. 30 coffee hours. We've done about 500, I've done over 500 meetings with constituents and stakeholders, and I've skewed toward in-district folks and folks who are actually working on policies that help the district versus just random lobbyists, because they always want a piece of you. They are not who I'm there to work for. It is the people of my district. My team and I have been able to help about 5,300 constituents, and that's anything from basic questions, referrals to a local agency, or helping them with a state agency. And then we've knocked about 5,000 legislative doors and made 1,600 constituent calls. These are me and my team and myself just doing a community survey on what's of interest to constituents, and I do review all of those responses. So I can stop there. That was a lot of rapid fire. It's been a busy year. Proud to have an opportunity to serve, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I just want to make a couple of comments.
Yeah.
The guardianship proposal, it's absolutely needed. I worked at a nursing home when I was 18 years old. I remember this woman named Helen. She was a piano teacher, and her guardian, and what happens a lot in those settings is that people will choose to stop eating and drinking because they are ready to enter the end of their life.
Yeah.
This poor woman was putting up on a feeding tube by her guardian and forced to continue living
Right.
because of that.
Mhm.
And so what you're doing is so very important, and I've seen it firsthand. Second of all, mental health, we need it. There are people who are concerned for their lives, parents, children who have mental health issues, who cannot find a place for their child to go.
Right. There's nowhere in this
There's
region for
nowhere.
inpatient juvenile beds.
Mm-mm.
I am hopeful that what we
Not
did
even
with the,
juvenile, even adult.
right.
Yeah.
But certainly for kids, and I am hopeful that what, with the Grand Traverse County, sorry to interrupt, but the county commission allocated the 5 million to help build a mental wellness center, and I've been tracking that really closely. I'm really hopeful that we can actually finally get some inpatient beds, both for adults and juveniles, but you're right, Commissioner Kramer, it is life or death, it truly is that dire.
Yeah, I mean, locking their doors, I mean, afraid for their lives. And it's a mental health crisis, and we are not assisting these people in the way that they need to be helped, so thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
That is all.
Anybody else?
Thank you for your.
Of course, you as well. And I will say, since again, I may not be able to stay till the very end, and I apologize, Commissioner O'Rourke, I checked my schedule.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
gonna be doing a tour of an ISD program. It's youth moving into college at the exact same time as that 10:30 event on Friday, so I apologize, I won't be there.
Okay.
I'm gonna miss lunch
Okay,
too.
I'll pass
with
it
you.
along.
But thank you. And thank you all for your service.
Representative, thank you for coming, and special thanks for the across the aisle work you're doing.
Of course.
You've done so much of that, thank you.
That's how we work, that's how we make things happen.
Next Thursday in Traverse City, it's the Northern Board.
Yes.
You'll be there?
My liaison, Renee McCauley, has been attending on my behalf. Now that I'm more in district, I'm hoping to start joining some of those meetings.
Thank you. We now are at the spot in our agenda. We thank you all for coming. We have a big crowd today, and I thank you for coming, and this is the time we want to hear from you. You have 3 minutes. We would ask you to speak to those issues that you think board members as a whole need to hear. Like to have you be respectful, and you always are, but please speak to the board. Anybody like to be recognized? Yes. Sheriff, yes.
Sheriff Mike Borkovich, evening. You all heard when I came in, there was concern that a sign was torn off a car. We have adequate systems, and I think someone was handing out brochures near that car, and there's quite a bit of wind out there, and we had jail corrections look at it, and the wind tore, they watched it come right off the car. They watched it, so I can't, I can only tell you, I'm not arguing with you, I'm just telling you, they watched it come off, so I just wanted everybody to know that, to keep things calm, okay? So that's all I have.
I hate to correct the sheriff.
No, that's okay, I just want to keep things calm. Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Yes, please.
I'm Jane Packard. I live up in Northport, and I just want a minute of your time. We live in a really nice area, and we haven't had big weather problems like tornadoes coming through here and excessive heat and that type of thing. But we also all realize that burning fossil fuels is exacerbating that kind of a situation. And I would just like to ask the board to consider helping as much as you can. There's a group now, a task force, Leelanau County Energy Task Force, and they're going to be working on alternative energy, clean energy for here. And I would just like to ask the board to do what you can to support them, because we really need that in our world. Thank you.
Yes, Keith.
Keith Ashley, Leelanau Township. I wanted to comment on the article that was in the
this past week's enterprise having to do with the FOIA response requests and so on. And I'll just read a little brief paragraph. This is a quote of Commissioner Lautner, sort of a quote. These committees meet and discuss these issues in public meetings, but Lautner says there is often not enough time for the rest of the county board and the public to review minutes from these meetings before the full board decides on these items at their regular monthly meeting. In my view, this complaint is dripping with hypocrisy. Commissioner Lautner, you are the same commissioner. Mr. Ashley, can I remind you about addressing the board as a group, please? Okay, so the board. The person referenced is the same commissioner who, with 3 Republican members, surprised the previous board with the finance and HR reorganization plan without any reason to support it other than some vague inferences of problems in the clerk's office. There was resistance by the Democrats to study this issue, and those pleas were pretty much denied, and this thing went forward without any great study of the issue and any change in the plan, basically. So now we're $200,000 plus later with this ill-conceived plan decision. This county has gone from well-governed and respected to the laughing stock in the area because of the finance director's revolving door. Now, maybe the plan we'll hear tonight will finally solve the problem. I hope so. But I suggest that in 6 months, if we still have this director problem revolving door, that you roll back this decision of 2 years ago and put it back the way it was, no matter how much effort and bleeding that's going to take. You have a majority now on the other side to make that happen if you so choose. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ashley. Any other public comment? Yes, Mr. Troll. He's short, isn't he?
I can stand. Good evening and thank you, Jeff Trofe, Leelanau Township. Spent 36 years in the world of education, deeply honored to follow in Ty Wessel's leadership at Northport Public School as a superintendent where I had retired. So thanks, Ty, for your continued District 4 support. Representative Kofia went through taxation all the way to mental health and all the rest of that, and with the 200 bills passed in 2003. What was not mentioned is House Bill 5108, and I'd be happy to email that to each one of you. What 5108, it's not part of what you read between Fishtown Preservation, the Michigan Charter Boat Association, and any of the federal consent agreements. It's yet another commercial fishing bill, which earmarks 25% of the recreational fish, and we have a perfect backdrop on that wall that represents this issue to commercial fishing. The recreational fishing in the state of Michigan was paid for by recreational dollars out of sportsmen, the Pittman-Robertson Act for all federal excise tax, 11% federal excise tax, all sorts of state and federal grants supporting everything from water quality. My degree happened to be in biology, conservation, environmental studies. To my knowledge, 5108 does not have any sort of economic impact statement, knowing that Michigan is blessed with, Representative Kofia called it, we are geographically blessed, but we're also environmentally blessed. And we have a multi-billion-dollar tourism and sport fishing industry in the state of Michigan. And to take 25% of that and hand that off to commercial fishers that represent basically 16 families in the state of Michigan who have not paid a penny, they've not done anything, and the ecology of it, I believe is wrong. I'm not undermining Representative Kofia. I'm well on the record at her office speaking with her staff about being disenfranchised with how anybody in a coastal community, especially Leelanau, Grand Traverse, and Benzie County. I don't know of anybody whose family isn't involved in recreational fishing. I'm not aware of anything that could replace the multi-billion-dollar sport fishing industry and tourism industry associated with that in any other bill that they could pass. So my question or my hope for Leelanau County is that as a board, each one of you individually would take a look at House Bill 5108 and contact Representative Kofia if you had any comments, questions, or concerns about how that's written. I have Representative Kofia is one of the 30 co-sponsors. It's a bipartisan bill. I have contacted most of them. I have asked for the economic impact studies. I've not received any. The environmental impact studies, I've not received any. Any biological studies, I've not received any. This was passed out of Bay City, out of a son of a commercial fisherman, thinking that it would be romantic or nostalgic, that maybe we could offer up sport fish in terms of bass, walleye, pike, perch, lake trout to Michigan commercial fishing. And it's already a 50-50 shared resource with our tribal neighbors. And we've had that agreement for the better part of 40 years. Ty and I, our population was 25%. It worked wonderfully.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Would you, if you have a copy of the bills, would you send it to the clerk, please?
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, I am Tony Rujanovich, Leland Township. I'm a charter boat captain operating out of Fishtown and I'm president of the Coalition to Protect Michigan Resources. I'm here today to ask you and all residents of Leelanau County to not support House Bill 5108 as it is written. Yesterday I spoke with Representative Kofia and I explained that the bill to expand commercial fishing is not good for the resource. Not good for the resource because its provisions are not supported by biology or any biological study that claims an abundance of fish. The bill is not supported by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. The bill did not follow the objectives of the Joint Strategic Plan for Management of the Great Lakes Fishery, a strategic plan structure created by the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, to which the state of Michigan is a consideratory member. House Bill 58, as written, would allow for the use of large and small mesh gill nets, which have been prohibited in the Michigan waters of the Great Lakes since 1973 and 74, respectively, because they are indiscriminate in terms of species and have high levels of bycatch or non-targeted fish. The proposed legislation will not increase state of Michigan commercial fishing from the shores of Leelanau County or any shoreline that is in the tribal ceded waters, the Washington Treaty of 1836. The tribal ceded waters of our county are commercially fished by the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa Indian commercial fishers. The consent decree that regulates the fishing in the Lake Michigan surrounding Leelanau County states on page 18 and 19 of the recently ordered 2023 consent decree, state of Michigan commercial fishing in the treaty ceded waters is prohibited. There are 4 exceptions, one of which is for the licenses held by Fishtown Preservation Society. They are allowed to fish for only 2 species of fish. The consent decree is so narrowly written to not allow for the expansion to any of these 4 exceptions. Furthermore, the 2023 consent decree greatly expanded tribal commercial fishing from its previous agreement. And then House Bill 5108 came out just weeks after the consent decree was ordered, without understanding the impact on the resource due to this expansion of tribal commercial fishing. I urge your legislators to use science to manage our public trust natural resources. Michigan's proposal G requires that all regulations on the taking of game reside with the Natural Resources Commission and must be based on sound scientific principles. House Bill 5108 is not good for Leelanau County, nor is it good for the state of Michigan. I hope that I can come back here in 2024 after there's been some work groups and amendments and urge you to support a commercial fishing bill that's good for our resources. Thank you for your time.
Tony, and I see you have it in writing. Would you give that to the clerk?
I don't have House Bill 5108. It's much larger than this, but I will make sure that Clerk Crocker gets it. Thank you.
Any other public? Yes, sir.
Scott Richards, Green Lake Township.
I want to make sure this is a message to the Board of Commissioners.
Sure is. It sure is. This sign has been all over Leelanau County. It's Grand Traverse County. It's been in the same place on my car all the time. Yes, it's been very windy the last month and a half. And I've never seen wind bend metal like this ever before. And I would like to see the video. Okay. Second, I came here to talk about Harry Steffens and Keith. They are great people. I've seen them around picking up garbage along M72. They really care about Leelanau County. They're very transparent, men of faith. And I forgot to say, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you. My Lord, my rock, my redeemer. That sounds 1914. Another thing is, I don't like seeing county commissioners go to pro-Palestine events because I like the Palestinian people, but they are being controlled by Hamas. And so I love the people, but right now they're being controlled by Hamas, and I don't want to support Hamas. And these are other bills. These are other bills that Betsy Coffea has passed. So if anybody wants to see these bills, I have them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Bill.
I should have this ready. Wiesner, Elmwood Township, and I'm just going to stand because I want to for part of it here. What I'm going to talk about the second 5 minutes is this, and everyone, if you want to look up this exact sheet, you can go to Daniel-Richard.com. Two first names, but his last name is Richard. So it's Daniel-Richard.com. Find Daniel Richard's fight. This is a real-time David and Goliath story of one man fighting the New Hampshire legislative body to preserve the rights of the people through the voting machines, to get rid of the voting machines and have transparent elections, paper counted, verifiable. So this is really a good handout. We're going to cover it at the end, but probably won't be hardly anybody here by then. What I'd like to mention here is Michelle Howard, the Tattle Traverse Area District Library head director. She wrote about the Hamas meeting in the library, and she said, unpopular things, yes, but we have to have the First Amendment, and we have to allow these things to be shared. Okay, well, then in the Library Bill of Rights too, it says libraries have to provide all points of view of current and historical issues. Libraries should challenge censorship. Libraries should cooperate with all persons and groups concerned with resisting abridgment of free expression of ideas. Well, that's not what's happening. I've talked the last 2 times at TCAP's meeting, well, more than that, but on this topic, I looked up 12 keywords on homosexuality at TC Central and TC West High School. TC West has like 500 books promoting homosexuality and not one on the other side. That doesn't fit. And the ALA, the American Library Association, says this is the way we do it. We encourage all libraries to show both sides of the issue. Then I checked Tattle, the library. They had just on the word gay, if you search the word gay, I kind of did an estimate on it, but it was over 800 hits on the word gay. They had one book that was a good book too. A Queer Thing Happened to America. It's got a subtitle, I can't remember. Dr. Michael Brown. Anyway, these things, we're getting one side of the issue, and I'm almost out of time. tcfamily.org, check it out and read the 5-page handout. Christian versus LGBTQ religion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Other guests?
Eric Lynn, Suttons Bay Township. I'm disappointed in the conduct of several commissioners turning the process of appointments to boards and commissions into nothing more than politics. Evidently, being conservative disqualifies you from serving on boards and commissions. And as far as I know, the only requirement is that you're able to attend meetings. And demanding to know somebody's qualifications is not part of the process. Anyway, I'm sorry to see this happen. I've served on many boards and commissions throughout the years. And currently I'm only on one. It's not an appointment process. Well, I guess it is, Canvas Board. But I've been on that for a while now. Anyway, I'm sorry to see this turned into nothing more than politics.
Thank you. You've done good service on our boards and commissions, Eric. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mark Coe, and I'm the president of the Benzie Manistee Snowbird Snowmobile Club. And I'm here just to share a little information with you about what we're trying to do in a portion of your county. The Benzie Manistee Snowbirds are a 53-year-old snowmobile club here in the state of Michigan. We maintain 160 or roughly 160 miles of trails in 3 counties, Manistee, Benzie, and Leelanau. We've done this for about 40 years. The Cedar Hilltoppers had taken on the northern leg of this trail 3, which comes into Leelanau County. We are seeking to use a portion of Newman Road for a temporary reroute to route our trail back to Maple City that we lost a couple years ago due to a trespass issue. The trespass issue was roughly over the course of time, snowmobilers did get off the trail, and we've signed it, we fenced it, did all we could do to maintain a route where snowmobiles would stay on the trail. There was trespass by ORVs that tore up a farm field, and we lost access to that field. And so we have worked for the last 2 years to trying to find an alternate route, because the last thing we want to do is travel up roughly 2.5 or 2.25 miles of roadway. We have a new landowner down south of M72 in Casson Township that allowed us access to come from Pettengale Oviatt Road over to Newman, north up Newman. We'd like to cross Casson Center and then go north a little bit past the town hall and back onto our Reith Riley property there. We've worked since the end of October with the road commission. We've presented to them. We've presented to the Casson Township, and we have been kind of feel like the can's being kicked down the road as far as permission to actually use access. Snowmobiling access is allowed in the state of Michigan. The snowmobiles are registered as a registered vehicle that can travel county roads. Newman Road in this area also is open for ORV travel. We have worked and tried to line out our location for the trail in a way that, you know, it's a temporary route. We'd like to use it because after 2 years of not coming into Maple City, the businesses have asked us. We have gone to our landowners in Casson Township, where we have 14 signed landowner leases for the snowmobile trail this year. We have about 9 letters of support from county residents, and we also have 3 letters of support from businesses. So with that being said, we have maintained this trail system for a number of years. Our snowmobile club has about almost $1 million worth of grooming equipment and maintaining equipment. Our volunteer members put in about 2,000 hours a season, maintaining trails, brushing, signing, and giving access for people to enjoy this. Trail 3 that ends in Maple City and comes through Leelanau County starts down in Newaygo. This is one of the longest contiguous trail systems in the county. So we would just like to let you know that we're trying to do this and moving forward with our relationships with the county road commission.
Thank you. And if you did call me today, if you want to reach out to me again, I take your call.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions? I'm sorry. Okay.
Any other public comment? Yes.
Jim Carpenter, Leland. Good evening. I bring tidings of joy. I'm wearing a red shirt because I can. The tidings of joy include Leland and Centerville Township in this last month have successfully stopped developers from working on glamping projects and unsightful buildings in Leland. So I'm I'm joyous of that. I'm joyous for our State Representative Betsy Kofia in her freshman year. I think she has been very successful. She's already, to my opinion, to my knowledge, has passed 3 bills through the House and is working on projects and topics of extreme interest to all of us in the county, including mental health, guardianship, housing. So hats off to her. And last but certainly not least, the work that you've done as a commission in 2023. Thank you. I know your goals are extravagant for 2024, including continuing on with septic inspections. Congratulations on a balanced budget. Congratulations on the broadband work that you've done and that you'll continue to do. Your work with energy conservation, your energy task force. As a friend of mine says, you're working as a well-run schoolhouse. Quite honestly, it's exciting to see the work that you and Betsy are doing, working across the aisle and getting things done for all of us in the county. So thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Would you give that ho, ho, ho?
Practice that.
Any other public? Yes, sir.
I'll stand. Keith Badoon, Leelanau Township, Leelanau Township. We did the Pledge of Allegiance. That flag represents our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. Anyone that violates or tries to take away my rights needs to be removed from office. They violated their oath of office. They need to be removed. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Please. Thank you. Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Be sure about that.
Should I take my hat off? Carrie Onan, Centerville Township. For starters, thanks to all of you for all the hard work you guys do. I know I thank you every time I see you, but I mean it. Thanks for all the time and energy you put in to help our community and our county government run as well as it does. So thank you so much for that. In regards to the appointment of Mr. Keith Badoon to fill an unexpected vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Commission. We understand Mr. Badoon is a qualified applicant whose application was received on time before the deadline and who not only expressed interest in our Parks and Recreation, but also brings his DNR experience and flat out interest in the DNR to the commission. And of course, that'll be very valuable to that. Regarding our County Board of Commissioners practice over the years of giving people who are interested in serving our county and have not yet had an opportunity to do so, a chance to serve is really vital, and it's important for community engagement. Giving people who haven't yet had an opportunity to do that serving, as opposed to just allowing the same people to hold committee positions over and over again. That standing practice makes sense to most of us. That sounds like the standing practice of the Board of Commissioners in the past. And it makes sense. It's fair, it's just. It sounds like the kind of approach to not only encouraging, but actually increasing community engagement. We've heard most of you mention in your campaigns or in this room that increased community engagement is important to you. Choosing qualified first-time applicants like Mr. Badoon over those who have already served is the best way we can think of to actually increase that community engagement and not just talk about it. So in closing, we definitely understand the recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Commission itself is to put Mr. Badoon on for a term ending next December, at which time he would be eligible to be reappointed. That sounds like a great idea to us. We very much agree with the Parks and Recreation Commission's recommendation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, sir.
This may sound like an echo, but I drove all the way from Northport, so it'll only take a minute, but I drove here to express my support, as the previous speaker said, for Keith Badoon for Parks and Recreation, and also for Harry Steffens for, I believe it's the Leelanau Construction Appeals Board, close enough. Both these men have experience and knowledge I think would be valuable for these boards. And also from knowing them for several years, I know of their hard work and commitment when they take on a task. And I think that's important in voluntary boards, that you have people who show up and work on them. And both these men would do that. Also, as was mentioned, I don't believe they've served on a county board. And I think that can bring new ideas, new perspectives, which are valuable for the board, but also send a message to everybody in the county that, hey, you can serve on the board. And I think that's what we want to do to get more diversity, more people to take the time to look at the opportunity to serve Leelanau County. So I'm sorry for being repetitious, but like I say, I drove here and then, boy, I don't know if I gave my name. It's Richard Swyatt from Leelanau Township.
Thanks, Richard. Any other public comment? There will be a second public comment opportunity at the end of the meeting. And I hope many of you are still here. Do we have any commissioner comment?
Merry Christmas, everyone. It's really nice to see you all.
I have just one comment. It's kind of a clarification. When the decision to go to a separate, single, standalone finance department, that did follow the rules of the Board of Commissioners, and it followed policy. It was an executive session, and it went to regular board the next week. Right or wrong. And I thank you for your comments, Mr. Ashley, on that, because we are trying very hard. We have had a lot of missteps to lost employees. It hasn't been easy. So I think, but it did follow procedure. So thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
I just have to say, it was a late edition.
Which was legal and it was policy.
Yeah.
Okay, we're now at our consent agenda, and I would entertain a motion, but I'd like to first read a statement that we read each board meeting on this. The purpose of the consent agenda is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one motion without discussion. Any commissioner may ask that any item on the consent agenda be removed and placed elsewhere in the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected and will not need a second. And all these items on the consent agenda were consensus decisions, recommendations made at the last committee meeting.
Unanimous, unanimous and not by consent.
Yes, unanimous. I was questioning that because one of those was we had one commissioner missing, but I guess that's still, yes, unanimous support. Thank you.
I would move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Support.
All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We are now down to the item 9 on our agenda, boards and commissions appointments.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So there are 4 different committee recommendations that the board is being asked to move forward this evening. They are those listed 9B, C, D, and E on your agenda. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. And I think Laurel's here as well. We filed the book for your discussion. And I apologize, I think looking at the previous agenda, so it looks like there is the committee of the whole recommendation, the Construction Board of Appeals, and the late addition. Parks and Rec.
And we did approve in the consent agenda most of the appointments that we made. So these are committee assignments that we did not discuss.
Right. The first one addresses the fifth member of the Solid Waste Council, because that was not unanimous.
Yes, Commissioner Albert.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners appoint Marcia Harris to the Solid Waste Council to a 2-year term expiring December 31, 2025. Support. And I would like to reiterate that she did get her application in on time. She was the only person whose application was in. She's well qualified, and the Solid Waste Council is going through some changes. So I think it's of value, but she did have her application in on time. I was the only one.
Thank you, Commissioner Kramer.
I just received a lot of emails and calls on this one and in support of Marcia Harris. So I just want to thank everyone for your feedback in regards to this assignment.
Other discussion? Okay, the motion is to appoint Marcia Harris. All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. We now have Construction Board of Appeals. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Retro.
Would move to appoint Harry Steppens to the Construction Board of Appeals to a 5-year term expiring December 31st, 2028.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in support of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. We now have a Parks and Recreation Commission appointment that became open, I think, since our last executive committee meeting. Commissioner Ross?
Well, I would just like to share that, yes, we did have an opening. A long-term member, Dave Behrens, gave his resignation at our meeting this week. We were all very saddened by that because he's been a huge part of Parks and Rec. He brought to the table amazing amount of scientific knowledge, use of the parks, especially with Veronica Valley. He was involved in writing grants that were successful to get invasive species work done through the 2% grants, and he is going to be missed terribly. So I'm really looking at our membership and knowing that to replace him is gonna. We don't have an applicant that has similar skills offered to the community. I did talk with our Mr. Badoon, and I see that I understand that he has some interest in the DNR sites, working with the access sites, and I applaud that. I'm glad he's there for the DNR, but just looking at what I know of him, I just really feel like we need to maybe open it up and find some more applicants to help us fill this huge seat that Dave Behrens is leaving behind. I ask that we open it up again and see what comes our way.
Commissioner Lovett?
I move Board of Commissioners appoint Keith Badoon to the Leelanau County Parks and Recreation Board for a term expiring December 31, 2024.
Correct.
Support.
Discussion? Yes, Commissioner Lovett?
When we ask for people of the public to apply for our boards and commissions, we have not set up a policy of asking them what their skills and talents are to serve on those boards. There are a couple of exceptions when it comes to the Solid Waste Council for recycling. We need somebody within the manufacturing field, et cetera. But for Parks and Recreation, we ask them their interest and whether they are able to attend the meetings. Someone in public comment said it the very best. We have worked very hard to increase community engagement, and I like that a lot. We've worked very hard to do that. We have an applicant that checks all the boxes we ask of anybody to serve on our Parks and Recreation Commission, and has never served on a board, is willing to serve. We have absolutely no reason not to give this citizen an opportunity to serve on our boards. It is presumptuous to assume that this person would serve on the Veronica Valley Committee as the new member to replace Mr. Barrett's. It's very likely that anyone serving on our Miles Kimberly Park Board or our Old Settlers Park Board may request to come over and serve now on Veronica Valley. So I think it's, I'm very pleased Mr. Verdun applied for this position. I'm very confident he's going to be a very good member for us on there. His application was in on time, as Commissioner Allgaier said. His application is in on time. It's all up to date, and we have absolutely no reason not to unanimously support Mr. Verdun to Parks and Recreation.
Commissioner Ross?
I would just like to share with the audience and the board that we do have an application, and on the first page, number 4 and number 5 are questions. Please state your understanding of citizen involvement on Leelanau County boards, commissions, committees, and authorities. And you can add in another page if you need more room. And number 5, which I think is most important, are what are your qualifications for appointment? I think that's a really important question that we ask on our application. And I just feel like that question does give us some basis to say yes or no to an appointment. So I disagree that we don't ask for qualifications, that a person has the skill set to serve the county well on a committee in Leelanau County. Thank you.
Other comments? Well, I want to reinforce what Commissioner Ross just said. I am going to support this appointment, but it is with recommendation because it was not a unanimous recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Commission. And I think it's a little bit off schedule on how we do it, because I think consistent with what we've talked about over and over and over, we do our initial recommendations for appointments at executive committee. But I'm going to support this because I got a call from Keith. He said he was interested. He said he would do a good job, and we'll know by next April or August or whenever the term expires whether he met that standard. We have a motion on the table. Anybody else have other comments? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
We now have Finance Committee recommendations, and I think we're back to our Finance Chair and our Finance Officer. Interim Finance Director. Yes. You know, I think we'd like 5 minutes. 30. So we will take a 5-minute break. 10, 15. What?
How are you? Yes, I'm familiar with the issue too. My staff yeah, right. Okay. No, I get it. I hear we. I'll keep an eye on where it is in the process. Committee. I know that you've been in direct communication with a lot of. That bill has been sort of out there. I bought. I was like, okay, that is not staying on my desk.
I wore locked up.
But I do have to be careful, right? Because we have separation of powers.
I'm sorry.
You're taking. No, it'll work. No.
Right. Sure, okay. Are you a part of a primary care doctor association? They're probably. Okay, Right, whereabouts are you here?
Half an hour. Isn't that nice to have that back?
Oh, yeah.
When it's crowded.
Yeah. But, hey, 3 days a week.
They can keep it up. Good to see you.
Yeah.
I know that Jim leaves and I.
Agreed. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Have any questions? How are you? Not at all. Not even. Yeah. Did you, my teacher, did you touch bits that way back to the original or it's top of mind, but also feel free to reach out directly to the Bill spot. Their staff is
Okay, thank you. And that's a risk you take when you take a 5-minute break. It turns into 15. We've been reminded by the audience that because there's a little bit of more crowd here tonight, that you're having trouble hearing us. So we will all speak up and into our microphones if we can. And Patricia Sotis Little and Chris Shearer are here tonight for item number 14.
12.
The DCS
12.
12.
Oh, it's just out of order.
DCS.
Must have been a public school.
Are we skipping 11, 13? Why are these not in?
I have 2 different agendas, Commissioner O'Rourke.
Yes, ma'am.
Who numbered it? 11, 13, 14, 12, 15, 16.
What we want to do is go down to The item on our agenda that is number 12, if everybody's comfortable doing that, Patricia is here and she has a caregiver that she needs to relieve at 9 o'clock. So we thank Patricia for coming. We thank her for all of the work she's done on this project. Patricia, could you come to the table? Of course. And we have Chris here on the on Zoom. Thank you, Chris. We have a proposed contract. I've asked Patricia to kick it off and explain what's happened with the contract so far and where we are. And then we'll
hear from Chris.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone, and it's so good to see everybody again. And thank you for all that you are doing and all your work, not only just on broadband, but on all the other issues that you've been tackling this year. It's impressive. You've made some real progress. Let's start with point. I mean, it's been an interesting year, and we've come through a lot of hurdles overcoming, but we've made a lot of progress. And I would just want to point out and thank Chris for that, because if we hadn't had Chris managing this project, we wouldn't be where we are today. It's not just a management effort. I mean, Chris is the problem solver supreme, who from an administrative standpoint has provided the leadership that we have needed to see this project through. So thank you, Chris. And I do hope you'll stay onward and guide us through the end of the project. Chris is going to give you details on exactly where we are in terms of point. I will tell you, they are still working and they are absolutely trying to get as much done as they possibly can. And I am thinking that, 2024, we'll see them complete the project. We started with the point project. Now we have the charter piece that we hope to bring to you before the end of the year to look at as well. But I think there's something that most of you probably don't know, and that is that the work that Chris has been doing on the charter project is not in the scope of the current project. He has spent an incredible amount of hours and have been incredibly effective. As you may recall, when we were here not that long ago, we were talking about a project that encompassed all of the 4 townships, but the price tag was somewhere around $3 million plus. And thanks to the work that Chris did in terms of talking logic and engineering with the engineering design staff at Charter, we now are in a position where we can say we're saving the county $1.2 million, because a big chunk of that is going to be hopefully picked up. I say hopefully because it has to go through a process to be formally approved by the state of Michigan, my high office, and through their Robin project. So that came about directly from Chris's work. He came up and spent several weekends driving the roads and going back and presenting the engineers with the data that they needed to see that, oh yeah, we can do this another way. So it's the skills and the incredible abilities that he's bringing to this project. So with that, I just wanted to point out that I think most of you weren't aware that he's been spending hours and hours, and this is not something that's in his job right now, but hopefully the new project coming in, he'll be able to continue onward as soon as we can get you a proposal that we think you can support. So with that, Chris, do you want to take over and kind of share where things are at with point first and then move into other questions? No sound.
We're not hearing you, Chris.
I think he's trying to tell us that.
Use that trick.
No audio. Can you hear us? Yes or no? Okay, we can't hear you.
Well, Deb Allen, you have had conversation.
I'm trying to get our technology working.
And you do have in front of you a proposed contract. You saw a revision of that last week. This is a update on that. This is what we're being asked to approve. And we wanted Chris to be able to address any questions from board members that they have. So hopefully we'll get this fixed, Chris.
In the meantime, would you like a motion?
Well, we can have a motion, but I think people would feel more comfortable understanding the contract first.
You said there were some revisions from it the last time.
Was, this came back, I think, it's just the same we saw last week.
So this has basically been reviewed. We just received it today from legal. So I apologize. That's why you're having it late notice. So legal had reviewed the document. One of the things that had been recommended was to look at, and I believe it is on the second part of your document, which would be page 4. It has 2 separate sections there regarding the project segment. And as Patricia has said, I think everyone realizes the amazing work that Chris has done and where we are and may not be if not for his support. But there's 2 different components. There is the Eastern Township, 7 Eastern Townships to finish the Point Broadband project. And then there is also the 4 Western Townships, the ISP TBD, or to be determined for the second segment of the contract for the 12-month component. So that's the crux of the program. Again, this has all been vetted through legal. I don't believe there were any significant changes to what had been presented before.
Now we're in a little bit of difficulty because we have not yet seen the numbers from Charter and do not have an approved project for Charter. We do know we have a project at Point, and we know that we need to move forward with the Point project, and that is moving forward. We also know that we should have by before the end of this month, the Charter update.
Right.
And estimate is somewhere around $1 million or a little bit.
Yes, they were doing 1.1 million to the county but then again, with Chris's review of the data and understanding of some of the assumptions that were made by the Charter engineering staff, I think we're going to get a reduction in that. He's pointed out some, let me give you, for instance, there are houses that are off the served list, but they're actually en route that Charter would have to pass laying fiber to connect houses that are in their unserved category for the Robin Grant. So why consider those, high cost, because they actually could be picked up in that way. I'm just explaining it in layman terms, but I'll let Chris throw in the detail. Oh, good. No, you're not. Okay. Anyway, there are 46.
Oh, phones.
Oh, phone. Good idea. Calling in.
While we're waiting, somebody has to answer, right?
It's usually the way it works.
If there's a messaging part of Zoom, maybe you could message him a number to call.
Actually, Ty's trying to call him right now.
We can't see that.
Ty is trying to call you, Chris, right now, if you can hear.
Using his background.
What's your number? Your county government at work, folks. Here we go. So
Yeah.
that's true.
You hear this?
Yes, nice.
Oh, echo. Yeah.
Can we move this to the 29th, perhaps, look at our technology?
Yeah, I think we should move this to the meeting on the 29th where we
28th, you mean?
29th.
Is it the 29th?
Special session.
Special session.
And he did have a question. I remember a couple of us expressed interest in the dollar figures, the cost. considering that the project, I mean, a lot of the legwork, we believe has been done by Chris. So we just had questions about the dollar amount and the payment that's listed underneath that chart about if it's completed earlier, then we pay lump sum. I guess there's just some confusion about
Yeah,
our
let me-
total liability with this contract. It seems,
Yeah, let me address that because I think the work is the work and the price is the price. So, you know, what Chris was really giving you was a price for the amount of work he's done. It's going to involve so many activities, so many hours, and he knows what that is and he gave a price. Now, he was asked to handle reimbursement by month, so he just spread it out by the month, but it isn't a monthly charge. There's a set amount for the job. And it entails all the work that he will be doing. Now, if it takes longer, you know, it takes a little longer. If it takes shorter, it takes a little shorter. He wins. If it's longer, you win. But the bottom line is, if you sit down and decide you're going to do a particular job, you give a price for what that is. You've taken into consideration all of the activities that are involved. So it got confused because it looks like he is billing for work done on a monthly basis. That's not the case. What he gave you, he was just asked to put it in that amount, that array for reimbursements, but that's not what the job is. Yeah.
and I would like to.
Just because of math, I mean, if I do that math, if we agree to this, if he gets this done in 6 months, he'll be getting paid $21,000 a month for the 6 months of the year. Not sure how many hours that need to be put in to earn that, but that's where my concerns come from. When I look at the total of the 12 months at 96,000, and again, I don't agree with changing, but that seems like a fairly steep fee, $21,000 a month for that work. So that's my concern.
Well,
I don't see that we want to change courses, but if I look at what was done in the past for the last 12 months, and I can't remember, that contract was like 30 some for 12 months worth of work, which is, you know, about $12,000 a month, which would include a very heavy front-loaded preliminary thing. That's where my concerns lie. I don't think we want to change horses, so, you know, this is a tough spot to be, because that would cost us money, but I do have heartache over the numbers.
I think no one knew when we got into the contract last year, the hurdles and problems that were going to become necessary to overcome, quite frankly. And a lot of those caused slowness in the project. None of that was Chris. It was due to the partnership arrangements, some that did not come through as we all had hoped when we got into this arrangement. But when we ended up not being able to come in the direction that Point had hoped to, which is coming in more towards the middle of the county and then being able to go up and down. And they had to come in way at the base. That took a lot of replanning. Yes, on Chris's part, yes, on Point's part, to find a way to find a provider that could provide the service that you know would have been provided by the Grand Traverse Band. There were a lot of changes in that contract at that time. That kind of thing happens a lot. This is not an isolated issue. So when you say front loading, there really isn't the front loading that you're thinking of. Yes, there's more work at the beginning, but it's not like, I read the minutes, you know, like building a house, where you have a lot of activity up front, where things are purchased, workers are selected, crews are engaged, and then the building proceeds. And then from that point, you're just kind of checking to make sure everything's going along. That's not the way engineering projects work.
Are they at a different point in that right now? I mean, isn't that design been pretty much established right now? I mean, I think we had that.
The basic design is established.
So
However. Oh, yes.
Patricia?
Yes.
I'm running in dual mode. You're getting me through the phone and you're seeing me through the tablet. So I apologize for that.
Chris, did you hear the question that Commissioner Rexroth is asking in terms of he's trying to gather an understanding of the work that continues beyond the initial beginning of any engineering project?
Please ask the question again, Commissioner, if you would. Was trying to get this connected up. I do apologize for it. I think the problem must be with the laptop that I'm using. I don't think it's on your end, but we've got it now, so please proceed.
Well, it's kind of a twofold question. Is both the fee structure. If I look at agreeing to this thing and the work is completed in 6 months, and I look at your fees for 6 months, they're $21,000 a month for those 6 months. And if I look at the previous fee structure that you used for the 12 months, it's around $12,000 a month approximately for our previous years of engagement. And I guess, I mean, there was discussion about, again, I'm not suggesting that we look somewhere else, but I have a responsibility to the taxpayers of the county to ask these questions and make sure the money's being spent wisely. And I'm just a little confused, and we had a little discussion about front loading and what part of the project administration is left yet. I assume most of the major planning at this point is done, which is the front end loaded part of the project. So I'm just trying to understand the fee structure and that part of it. I mean, I guess if it were, if you had said it's 12 months at $8,000 a month, and if it's finished earlier, it's whatever a month times 8,000, I would have a better understanding how this is working.
Well, there was some front end loading on that for a lot of the work. As far as the design, permitting, getting everything launched, all that stuff. The thing to understand is we did run into things that we didn't run into or that we didn't anticipate. If we had been able to start the project based on utilizing the existing fiber that was in the county, we would have been turning people on within 45 to 60 days of the start of the project, because everything was there, it was established. When we, after several months of going back and forth, trying to establish using that existing fiber and finally realizing that we weren't going to be able to, we had to basically ask Point to come back with a different plan, starting at the south end of the county rather than the center of the county. And that required going back and engineering a feed that came all the way up through 4 counties from Stanton, Michigan, because we didn't have that existing connectivity available to us. So it really took us longer to get the project relaunched once we did decide to make the change. Now, we have since gone back and revisited using that fiber again, and it appears as though that those conversations have stalled again. We don't know where it's at. I don't know where it's at personally. But where we're at, the reason it looks the way it does, and keep in mind, we're talking 2 projects at this point. The Point Broadband project, which is $96,000 for getting it done. And then we're looking at the charter project as well. First thing I want to mention on the Point Broadband project, there are 14 cabinets that they are building. To date, they have invoiced us for 3 of those cabinets. They've got 2 more being worked on. They've invoiced us for cabinet 3, 9, and 8. They're working right now to get cabinet 5 and 6 fired up. 5 is completed. They did testing last week on a generator because they don't have power at their main cabinet yet. And 6, they're expecting to complete next week. That constitutes about 33% of the work. So what that leaves us is 9 cabinets still to go to complete the whole county. And if we can complete it in 6 months, that's quite a bit of work on our end, because we need to validate all of the work that they're doing. We need to make sure that when they send us invoices and they provide us all the test data, we validate that, we make sure that it's done right, so that we're doing it right. If it takes us 12 months, there's still 9 cabinets to do. So what I tried to do was to come up with a payment structure. I feel we can get it done by June. But you've all heard that Point Broadband is planning on taking through the end of next year to get it done. So it's just to kind of accommodate both. My incentive obviously is built in to get it done in 6 months by using a 12-month payment schedule, but having still putting in that amount of effort. If I can get it done in 6 months, I'm doing 12 months worth of work in that time. The other thing that I wanted to point out too is with the charter proposal, we did have a tentative proposal from them for nearly $4 million back in the summertime. We went to work on it. They came back in September with a proposal for 2.6 million. That would have been the county's contribution to it. As of last weekend, we've got that down to 1.1 million. And I'm still not entirely convinced that that is where we need to be. It may be what we have to settle on, but as Patricia was starting to point out, there's still a lot of anomalies in their proposal. They've taken addresses off the list that they're actually passing with this new construction to get to other addresses that they say are low cost, which I've been working on documenting it. I worked on it yesterday to actually create the example so that I can sit down again with their engineering. We're going to take one more shot at it. We also still have, as she started to talk about, the Robin Grant, which does take care of part of that. But that is in a challenge period right now, and we won't know the outcome of that until December 23rd. If we get to December 23rd and the MyHigh office says there's no challenges, then we know where that's at. But we feel that there's going to be some deductions taken out of them, and that's going to impact where we're at as well. But we're at 1.1 million now. I can't see it going up, but I do see it coming down. And right now, their average cost that they're asking for has doubled from what they were asking, more than doubled from what they were asking. So that's another issue that I've got to have them address. We do want to bring this thing home, and I have been doing all of this work. I've made as Patricia pointed out, because I know we need to get this done. I've made trips up there to go through and revalidate these areas, drive them out myself, send the data to their engineers who sit at desks in Austin, Texas, and make predictions as far as what they think should be served and unserved up here. None of them have really walked it out and seen exactly what is there. And it's been a uphill battle that it's been a little frustrating actually trying to get this done, but they're still the right organization to be doing this because of their huge presence in those 4 townships. And we're this close, and by is it the 28th, I think, Patricia?
I said the 28th, apparently it's the 29th.
Okay, the 29th. By the 29th, we need to have a definitive answer as far as what they can finish it up for and make sure that it's 100%. They keep pulling addresses out because they say they're high cost, but they're right by them. I mean, they have cable at the ends of some of these driveways. There's no reason that they can't be building an extra few hundred feet of cable to get to these houses that are 700 feet off the road. Those are the issues that I've been working through and going back up and spending time to just revalidate, making sure that we're getting it right. And I'm not the only one that does this work. I do have people on my staff that are working on this as well. I did have a engineer in Leelanau. He has gone to Florida for the summer, or for the winter, excuse me. And so I don't have that to get us the rest of the way through. I don't have that resource up there to go back and check some of this stuff, but he's been out there working for me as well, checking on exactly what is needed and rechecking what information we're getting back from Charter. So with that, it's for the project to get it done. I don't want it to go to December of 2024. But it's set up to allow us to take, to work with Point and take that long to actually get it done. The charter piece of it, I can tell you, working with them on the construction side of it is going to be much easier because we're only dealing with a few hundred homes now, where we're dealing with 3,100 homes with the Point broadband contract. So once we get that rolling, it's just a matter of making sure that they're fulfilling all the obligations that we've built into their plan.
I'd like to suggest that we hold this then until the committee of the whole meeting, when we get the final numbers from charter. Because I know there are people sitting at this table that are uncomfortable approving a contract for services without a contract for a project.
Okay, I would like to say something.
Yeah. But first,
To address.
okay.
To address your comments. And that is, this is not a job that Chris planned and now he can sit back and just watch it get done. He is hands-on every single day. I can call him. He knows.
Would it cost us if we didn't call him so often?
Yeah. I would love to not have to. Wouldn't it be nice if charter and Point were just, yeah. So he is hands-on every single day. He's critical to this. So it's not like he could just plan it and then sit back and watch. He is manic because it keeps getting glitches.
So is there support to move this forward to our committee of the whole meeting? The date is December 29th.
Yeah, I had the same concern in addition, approving a contract for guidance on a project we don't have a contract on yet anyway. So,
Yeah, there is support. Make sense, Chris?
I'm sorry?
Can you join us on December 29th?
I'm doing one of those rare things I rarely ever do, and it starts with V, and I'm supposed to be in California.
Oh, good for you.
I haven't done this since we started rural broadband projects 4 years ago. Last time I had any time out there was when I had a job with somebody else. But anyway, I can be available for it. But I'm not going to be in town.
Enjoy your vacation. Can't we do it without it? No. Can't we? Do it
I think we'll want him. I predict there's going to be some questions, but by phone or by Zoom is comfortable. Thank you. Saw your picture in the Washington News today for the difference you're making there. Nice job.
Thank you.
Everybody ready to move on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you having this added to the special session?
No.
I'm assuming this will be a committee of the whole on the same day.
A different meeting, so no action.
That would, well, I don't know. Well,
It
that,
can't be a committee of the whole and have action,
we did it first.
formal action.
We did it first. Yeah, I mean, I would suggest we do it before the special session, then we could add that to the special session.
No. I'm sorry, that's
You
not
can
how it
post
works.
that as a
What
possible.
we can
add.
do is, if you'd like to have a committee of the whole, we will get the form signed so you can add it to the special session. And then when we get to the special session, if you need to remove it. You can't add a special session to a special session. You need to do it, at least 18 hours in advance. In fact, the
We'll figure that
administrator and I
out.
can work that out for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to special.
Thank you, Patricia.
You're welcome. Happy holidays.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
We're back down to
Thank you,
our agenda, and we will go back up to item 11. Doug Rexroth and Kathy.
So I'm believing that this item actually is limited specifically to the composition of the interview committee for the finance clerk. And at the finance committee meeting, the general consensus recommendation was that that consists of Wessel, look here, get the names here. Commissioner Wessel, the interim finance director Kathy, Darcy from HR, and the chief deputy clerk Jennifer Zwicky as a composition of that team. So that is the recommendation that's been given. I don't know, Kathy, if you want to add to that, anything, or so that's, I guess, what we're looking for this direction to for the board to approve that as the committee. I would add that in my opinion, it wasn't part of this conversation, but as we talked about some other things as far as agenda items and keeping the administrator in a loop, I think it would be advisable to have the administrator at least present at those, not a voting member of that committee, but present so that she can stay advised, because we don't know future structures going on. So that's actually an element we want to try to make sure that part of all the ongoing things that we keep all parties advised of what we're doing, whether or not they're directly involved in making decisions, so that if something happens, we're ready to go. So that's my, hey, Kathy, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think it makes sense and, information is good.
And we don't usually have action to establish an interview committee, but if we need to make a motion, I don't think we need to.
No, I think if there's a consensus, if there's not, is there any opposition to that makeup of the committee as mentioned? Any discussion that opposes that?
No, I just, as stated, I think we have to figure out, as I said at that meeting, kind of figure out our policy on how we are going to interview and who's going to interview. And, and we've had elected officials who say we have they're allowed to hire who they choose. We don't have any input on that. So I just think it's just really important to remember that that department head has final say on who will be working for them. They have to be able to work with that person, and they have to be comfortable in that person. So as long as, input from others, it's an interesting process. I think we just have some kinks to work out, but we can get there.
Those could be addressed at our organizational meeting and in the process, because we're in kind of a very unique situation right now, so that's the unique composition. So hopefully we get out of this unique situation very quickly.
So we have an interview committee. We understand what Commissioner Lautner has said, and we also have supported what Mr. Richroth said, that of course the administrator is welcome and invited, and hopefully will be part of it. Thank you. Thank you. We now are going to go, Steve Christensen is here, and
We have, Melissa, do you want these motions?
oh, yes, we do. Thank you. Yes, we have anybody have a motion on that?
Well, I would move to amend the fiscal year 2024 budget, general appropriations act and resolution, and fiscal year 2024 budget rules resolution as were previously approved on November 21, 2023. Support.
And we have in front of us the paperwork with the proposed resolution. And the red is the change. Mr. Rush.
Sure, so, we just got this, but in the resolution for our general appropriations, on page 2 of 3 at the bottom, we have scratched out that the county administrator is, that the interim finance director is hereby appointed chief administrative officer, which is a new term for me. And then when I go over to the county administrator's approved job description, under duties and responsibilities, she also serves as the chief administrative officer. So we have two different people who are claiming chief administrative officer. So there's a problem there. And I'm not ready to
My
say
understanding,
yes, but
my understanding on this is chief officer here pursuant to the Uniform Budget Accounting Act is just for the Uniform Budgeting Act, just for the reporting and not for all administrative functions. Could you speak to that, Kathy?
I would say that that is concurrent with what the attorney has referenced, that this is specific to the budget and finance.
The board just have to appoint a chief administrative officer for the pursuant to the Budget Act.
So that's not her title, it's just what her role is in the budgeting in the finance department.
Yes. Right, Doug?
That's my understanding.
Right, Michelle?
That's correct.
Is that your understanding too, Administrator Allen?
It is now.
Okay.
I just like 5 o'clock bombshells before our meetings. And there ought to be.
If I could just interject, Commissioner, this was on the Finance Committee meeting of December 4th.
Right.
It did turn quickly because it was to go to executive, which is what your rules are, that you would like to have things go to executive first. It went to executive and it was recommended at executive to come to this board.
But did we see it? Did we get?
It was my understanding that you were given a, under separate cover that day.
Not with these red lines and everything. I did not see this.
Yeah, I don't
I'm pretty.
think so. I think we knew it had to be changed at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
And if,
Again, a little bit of process
Sure.
concern here, so.
Yeah. And if I could back up a little bit more to November 21st, when we had the budget hearing. Then we closed the hearing and went into your regular meeting. And then I believe that the motion then was to appoint me as your interim finance director and a 6-month plan, a long-term plan. And then later in the meeting, you passed your budget, you adopted your budget and the Appropriations Act and the budget rules, and they conflict. So it created a conflict.
Yeah. You know, the red lines I see just say, instead of county administrator, it says interim finance director. That's fairly simple. In fact, that's not a big change. That's just at the bottom of page 2.
Commissioner Westbrook?
Yeah, just to read that so that it is clear, because the word is a little confusing, but that part that Commissioner Ross is concerned is be it further resolved that the interim finance director is hereby appointed as the chief administrative officer pursuant to the Uniform Budget and Accounting Act with power to administer those duties in connection with the county budget to prepare, present, and monitor the annual operating budget jointly with the accounting finance. So I think it makes it fairly clear that that duty is strictly tied to those items.
Okay.
And I believe this is consistent with the decision this board made for our interim finance plan. We still have to settle on a long-term plan, but this is consistent with what we voted for and approved, I think, a month ago, 7-0. And we now need to do this to comply with the law.
I wish it was a little bit different term. It would probably remove the confusion, but I think the sentence makes it clear. I understand your concerns, Commissioner Roth, if it had, but it's probably some legalese that has to be in there that we pay the lawyers to figure out, so.
But this is,
Yes.
but this is what Finance Committee recommended.
Correct.
And so, if a ball got dropped and that was not sent as separate cover as it should have been, then this board has deserved an apology. Because there is absolutely no reason that information should not have been forwarded either from our finance. It is mentioned in the minutes, and onto executive.
Well,
we may be wrong because we have received a ton.
We have.
So I am
So
not
we
saying
don't-
100%, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
this with the red looks different than anything I've seen, so I'm good.
And if we drop the ball on distributing it, the responsibility lies within the finance committee. So for that.
My
we
apologies.
apologize.
We don't put the executive, we don't put that package together. We do not do that.
So do we want to have a motion?
Yeah.
There is a motion.
We have a
on the
motion.
floor.
There's a motion. Okay, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Roll call.
We have to call a roll. Yes.
No further discussion, right?
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
No.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Chairman Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
6-1. Motion carries.
Just don't, thank you. Just don't like late entries, okay?
We now have to approve the changes in the budget rules that are presented here.
We just did them both in one motion.
Do we do both in a motion?
I believe I did.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Okay. Then, with apologies for getting back focused on this agenda. Here we go. We're at the drain commissioner. And I know that Steve was a part of a conference call today with Brian, and thank you for staying this long. And while Steve's coming up here, I learned a lot on a phone conference call that Administrator Allen and Steve Christensen arranged. And the road commission was a part of that, and maybe you could kick off our.
And the treasurer.
Yeah, received a couple communications where there seemed to be just an opportunity for better dialogue. And so invited everyone to get together today for a meeting, and it was a very productive discussion between the road commission, our drain commissioner, the consultant, our treasurer, myself. So I think that we all have a much better, and of course our chairman of the board, I think we all have a much better understanding of the process. This was our first drain commission or drain district that we created. It's natural that there's going to be some challenges and some, you know, some little hiccups, but I think that out of that dialogue came some great direction. Don't you, Steve?
I do. It was a good meeting.
And Brian was incredibly helpful during that discussion.
We have a action item on the agenda that is not about all of the drainage districts and all of the future. It's approving a contract with a proposed contract renewal with a firm. Want to speak to that, Steve?
Yeah, it's basically the same contract that we've had for several years. This is directed toward work that happens before districts actually happen. There's a process that I have to go through as we look at a piece of property. I've got someone or an entity that wants to do an application. So I have to reach out by law to Brian and have him look and see what shape the district would be, how many parcels are in the district, and most importantly, how many signatures would be required for an application. Once that comes in, I go back to Brian and we have to determine, he determines how many signatures are required for a petition. The work that he does going into those districts is something I cannot charge against a district. He has to bill it and it has to come from us as the county, because I cannot hold it and charge it against the district. I can't go back and get it from the district. It has to be billed and paid before the districts are actually generated.
Mr. Allen.
I just want to add that we've had this contract for several years. There's no increase in the dollar amount of that contract. Is that correct, Steve?
That's correct.
And yet the work we anticipate is going to increase. So just keeping that in mind.
There is a proposed motion on page 5 of the blue sheet that the clerk has read for us. Yes. Ms. Malger.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive its policy on bid requirements and approve the as-needed consulting and engineering services agreement for general drain consulting between the County of Leelanau or the Leelanau County Drain Commissioner and GEI Consultants of Michigan PC as presented, pending council approval and review. Funds to come from 101-690-275-801-000.
Second.
Been moved in second. Any discussion? Yes.
I'll just say that I, just had questions about this prior to the full understanding of how that worked, and I believe that, that waive its policy on bid requirements. It's bad in my mouth when I say it, but in this case, because that's the firm you're gonna use anyway, it would actually cost the taxpayers more to have someone do the preliminary work and then have to switch to someone else. So I switched my position on this, I'll be supporting. So.
Anybody else? All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for your time.
You do. We now are at item number 15 on our agenda. 14. Let's go to 14 before we go to 15. We have personnel committee recommendations. We have here as
Hi. I've, in the 2024 budget process, the board approved a part-time FOIA coordinator position for the prosecutor. Unfortunately, I can't post a position because I don't have a job description that's been approved for a posting. Understanding that the prosecutor's been asking for this for a long time, that's why I asked for it to be brought to your agenda today. However, I'm okay if you would like to push it off to January and have more time to look at it.
I'm comfortable approving this. It has been reviewed by the prosecutor.
It has.
And I agree, we need to move on this. He's the expert in this. I can't pretend to be. So if this is what a FOIA coordinator needs to do, I would be comfortable approving this. So do you want to discuss more? I'd be glad to make a motion. I would move that we approve the presented FOIA coordinator application,
job
requirements, the job description as presented.
Any discussion? Commissioner Rush?
I know we had our eyes set on someone who could combine jobs and save the county money and mainly in benefits, and that was really attractive and it fell through. I understand the immediacy in getting this done, but I also see that this position may be sitting there with not much to do, and that those are words coming straight from Mr. Hubble's mouth, that, it's very up and down and such. So although I'll go ahead and let you find someone, I'm really hoping that we can find a candidate that mends with some of these open positions that we have, and
that would be awesome.
Better utilize our staffing dollars and dollars. Save taxpayer dollars.
Is this going to be a union position?
It is budgeted as a Teamsters position, yes.
So has it been by Teamsters?
I will send, once I have the job description, I will send it to the union for review.
Should we be approving it before the union approves it? Or do they have to say?
The job description is your job description.
Correct, but the union has to.
The union has to.
It's in a memorandum of understanding that we initiate once the job description is created.
Yeah.
That's the process.
One other, we don't have a salary or hourly attached to this yet.
It's budgeted as a Teamsters level 2, if I'm correct. Kathy, do you recall?
Was in that list you presented to us.
Was it an individual employee out of Joe's office that did this? Or was it
It was
merged?
It was merged with other
So-
duties, yes.
Right, so I don't think,
It was
We don't know
budgeted.
yet. We don't know yet where this person is going to fall. As you said, is it going to be a blended position? Is it?
2343.
It is my understanding that the administrator had recommended that it be a blended position. And that ran into problems because part of it was a association position and part of it was not.
Correct.
And
But it was blended in Joe's office.
He was a union person doing the duties.
Along with their other duties.
Yes, correct.
Blended. So I don't want to act on it yet tonight. I think we've got to decide how we want to handle this first before we move forward with either the salary or the.
Thank you.
I'm going to support it because I talked to the prosecutor and he's been asking for this for a long time. We can at least post it. And then if we want to talk further about it at our January meeting, we can do that. If there are opportunities to merge, we could do that. But all we're asked to do now is approve a job description so we can post it. And this might be a hard one to post. Have a motion on the table. Are we ready to vote? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-0 or 6-1. Thank you. I didn't mean to call you a 0.
Thank you.
And I encourage you to, I hope you find another gem like you just missed.
We are now down to a patient person in our audience who's going to join Kama and Lynn and talk to us about a grant opportunity that we're being asked to approve. The
Yes.
writing of, not the actual grant.
Right, just the writing of. So we do have an opportunity to apply for funding for a grant. It is a rare opportunity, and Russ Packard and Joe DeFore is chairman of our Energy Futures Task Force. They will tell us about this grant opportunity, and this is only for them to move forward and write the grant. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. My name's Joe DeForest. As Commissioner Alguier said, I'm the chair of the new Energy Futures Task Force that you folks created. My colleague is Russ Packard. He is the chair of one of the 3 work groups that we've created. Just a few seconds of context. It was just September in this meeting that you folks created this new task force. It's called the Energy Futures Task Force, and we thank you for that. Our mission, established at the time, was to identify opportunities and facilitate implementation of energy efficiency and renewable energy in Leelanau County. We've broken into 3 work groups according to both the members' interests and also where we thought those opportunities might lie. One work group is especially focused on energy efficiency. Another one is focused on clean transportation. And the third is looking at opportunities for clean energy projects. Beneath that mission, there are 2 goals in particular that I want to mention because they both apply to what we're going to speak to you about. One was seeking not only projects, but funding sources, and there's funding out there in many, many different categories now, much of it through the Inflation Reduction Act. The second one is, we think, as part of our task force, and also we would hope that you would agree, it makes a great deal of sense that the county be a role model be our operations in the county role model for the larger county in general. And we also think both of those goals apply to what we're going to describe to you. So out of the Clean Energy Projects Work Group, which Russ chairs, we have conceived, and through volunteer engineering assistance from a professional solar installation company, A moderately sized solar array that would be placed on the property here. It would provide approximately 30% of the energy required by the entire campus. What that means is, and these are rough numbers based on an initial proposal using rough facts. We have much engineering and detailed questions yet to be filled in. We could conceivably save $2,000 a month off of the electricity bills of this building and the jail building. In round numbers, roughly $40,000 a year in savings of energy to the county, applied directly to your bills. The project itself and the grant we're asking you to give us permission to write would cover 100% of the costs to build this array. Every last cent, including the grant administration itself. I should mention the grant has a name for the record. It comes from the Michigan Public Service Commission. The formal name of the grant is the Renewable Energy and Electrification Infrastructure Enhancement and Development Grant. They will be giving out over $21 million. The state loves acronyms. The grant will be dispersing over $21 million. One of the reasons we've pressed to be in front of you tonight is that the time period is short. The grant application cycle actually begins next week, which is why we've been working in the background to build out the numbers and the proposal and so forth. It lasts only 8 weeks. The grant application cycle closes February 20th. So we have a great deal of work to do during that short time period. The cost, we believe, of this project is going to run between $1 and $1.5 million. But again, every dollar of it would be covered by the grant. The final fact I want to give you in your considerations is at the low end, the estimated life of a solar array is 25 years. If you do the math with the round numbers I've provided, $40,000 in savings annually to the county over 25 years comes out to $1 million in total project savings generated here. And that's the low end of a modern solar array.
10 million.
Pardon me?
10 million, right? No. Nope.
We'll check our numbers, but I guess the point is whatever. Is that correct? Did I get a zero wrong?
Yeah.
I'm happy to be wrong in this case. Thank you. Happy to be wrong. That's why Russ is here, my friend. We're both here to answer your questions and take your comments. But again, I'm hoping you will give us the authority to move forward. I guess I should emphasize that until the very moment when you think about signing the final agreement, you're under no obligation whatsoever. You can pull out at any time. You do not need to agree to any of this later. It just gives us permission to get underway in a short time cycle. Russ is much more the authority on the machinery of the of how these sorts of systems work and so forth. And I asked him to be here in case you had questions along those lines.
Commissioner Elder.
I want to thank you for finding this opportunity. That's what we formed this committee for, so thank you. I'm so impressed with the work that the people are doing on a voluntary basis in this committee. So this is an opportunity. They are asking only to write the grant. We will make a decision later about final approval, for submitting it. I'm very excited about that opportunity. It will save our taxpayers money. And it's an opportunity.
And if I may interject, because it's in my notes and I failed to mention it, it's worthy of mentioning. The software that modern professionals use calculates all sorts of things. And if you're an environmentalist with concerns along those lines, this project here at this county facility is projected to save the burning of 40,000 barrels of oil annually, or 10 million pounds of coal annually. So has significant impacts.
So can I finish with just a motion to?
If I make a motion
Yeah,
and
to
we'll get a second,
complete my
and then
sentence.
Commissioner Wagner wants to speak after you speak to yours.
Yeah, so I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the writing of this grant to the MPSC for the solar array.
I can speak to the motion before.
I think I already did. It will save us money. It's an opportunity. It is our tax dollars that we are bringing back home. Because of course, any grant from the federal government is our tax dollar. We have an opportunity to bring it back and have it work for us and save us money in the long run. So thank you.
Commissioner Wagner.
This is the first we've heard of this. This is the first we've seen this. So I think it's really unfair. All we knew is that there was a grant. We haven't seen it. I've been watching for it. So now we find out you want to place a moderately sized solar array on this campus. Where?
On the flat area behind the hill that's terraced.
So we have one area we use for overflow when we have our Veterans Memorial ceremonies down there. So you're suggesting we take our overflow from our Veterans Memorial ceremony?
We don't know the exact footprint of the array yet,
Only open
but we could
space.
tell you.
Absolutely available to this campus right now. The terrace area is the commercial septic field we need for this campus of this size by state mandate. Guess where our reserve field is?
We're well aware of that. And we were lucky enough to meet with your facilities person, Jerry Coleman, yesterday, who took us on a tour of the campus. There are other areas of the campus that may well facilitate this array. As we said, there's much additional detail that needs to be filled in. It is not the only site, it's the obvious ideal site.
So I disagree with a lot of what has been said. I think, we're not going to save coal and we're not going to save oil because everyone knows what it takes to create these solar panels, the amount of energy it takes to create them. So we're going to take tax dollars out of one pool and ask for them to come here to save money on an energy bill that is already, and should this project go through, be nearly 100% carbon-free energy already. So we are already a leader in renewable energy here at the campus. So I had an idea this is what was coming down the pike, and I'm very disappointed that it's landing. Yes, it is just to write it, but should it be accepted, are we really going to say no? Should we be awarded this grant? So do we apply for a grant? Are we really interested in putting solar panels on this campus? And I am not. So I won't be supporting this grant.
Mr. Kramer and then Commissioner Rush.
I just want to remind the board that this is an opportunity for us to not only engage in renewable energy, but also receive a grant that can help the county save a significant portion of funding. And if we opt out of this, the grant funding will just roll to the next community. So we could choose to say, no, you can't go get this grant. But then this funding will just go to another interested county, another interested party. So it really doesn't behoove us to say no. That's all he said.
Thank you. Commissioner Rush.
Mr. DeForest and Mr. Packard are experts in building a sustainable, resilient community. I value their input, and I really am disappointed that even though you served on this committee, you're not supportive of us trying to do the work that the committee was formed to do, and that we are just investigating opportunities for financial and energy and resiliency. Why this is a wonderful opportunity, absolutely wonderful.
The 10 years I've been on the Board of Commissioners, every year when we talk about our goals, say we gotta get more grants. We gotta hire a grant writer. We gotta find some of that federal money. We now have an opportunity to have a couple of experts come forward and say, we'll volunteer our time and we're going to give you a proposed grant application, and then you can decide. And then if you get awarded that, then you can decide whether you want to accept it. I will be voting yes on this motion. Commissioner O'Rourke.
First of all, I think solar panels are the ugliest thing in the world. And I see beautiful farmland up there in M72 with solar panels on it. However, the $21 million, as Jamie said, is going to some community. And I agree with Melinda too. We got a veterans thing down there, being a veteran. I really don't want to turn around and see solar panels. Keep up the good work, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Richard.
So I share much of Commissioner Lautner's concerns. Always the devil is in the details. 100% paid for always involves
pretty much
2% somewhere. I will support the writing of the grant, but rest assured I will have a lot of questions once the details are here. And facilities placement, is there future needs for this place that could be better used? I mean, we have a limited piece of dirt here, so I have 30 questions that you couldn't answer right now because we don't know those answers. So I'm okay supporting the writing of the grant, but I could be very skeptical when we get to the end of it with a lot of questions. So that's my position. I guess I would say my position in supporting you to write the grant gives you no indication of how I would vote once I see the grant.
Any other kind of
Words don't get you happy about it.
That's me.
Yes, I did question. I actually made a prediction also that this is exactly where you were going to try to go with this energy task force. And obviously I was right. When I asked that question, I actually asked that point, but was told that this will give the public, our public opportunities for renewable energy. I would much rather see these dollars be given to the public. If they choose to put solar panels on their property, give them this opportunity to this money, write the grant for the Leelanau County in general. If they want to put them wherever they want to put them, allow them to put them. For the new state law where they're going to be able to be cited wherever they want them anyway, go for it. But I said at the time I was opposed to this campus, and I remain opposed to putting them on this campus. Absolutely opposed.
Would you explore, when you're exploring placement, that I understand some organizations place them off campus on vacant land someplace else and still get the benefit of the monies, and I think that's an option we can also consider.
Mr. DeForest read the stated mission that we approved as a board to form this task force, and he's clearly showed how this idea is matching the mission that we approved as a board to have a task force for 1 year. And I believe that we're right on track doing what we said we were going to do.
You ready to vote?
Yes.
All those in support of the motion say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you. And thank you
folks
both for doing this, and let us know how we can help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are now down to item 16 on the agenda. And I think Commissioner Kramer has a motion.
I know. So exciting, and there are people leaving. I moved. I move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners enter into a closed session for review of a written attorney-client privileged legal opinion from civil counsel per MCL 15.268.
Support. Needs to support that.
All those, will you call the roll, please? Clerk?
Commissioner Kramer,
Yes.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Rourke,
No.
Commissioner Rexroth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Alguier,
Yes.
6-1.
For the audience, and we thank you for coming. We will probably be, we're going to be talking to our attorney. We will probably be a half hour. That would be my prediction. You're welcome to stay. There will be a public comment opportunity at the end of that agenda today, but we will be going into closed session in the conference room here. Thank you.
Don't know if we'd have much luck finding it.
Whatever we need. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to-
Okay, I'm ready, Michelle?
No, just a second, I lost my mouse again.
Okay.
Screen off. You can see it. Screen off.
What does that mean?
This screen, so you can see.
Make my mouse here. Oh,
You should be able to find it now. Hold up until you start.
I know how to clear a room.
just a second. I'm like 3 years old when it comes to this.
My phone just reminded me it's
Oh,
time to get
where'd
ready
she
for
go?
bed. Oh, mine did that like 2 hours ago. It tells you
Really?
bedtime reminder, start to wind down. Yes. Oh, yes.
I know
You
your
stay up
battery
late.
is dead, so
Pardon?
Electricity.
You stay up at a 3-year-old. Two still, he's still two. He's still two, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just had a personal.
Are you ready? Ready?
Ready?
We're ready. Ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we go back into open session.
Approve.
Support.
All those in support of that motion to go into open session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0. Commissioner Rexroad?
I would move that the county board of commissioners authorizes the administrator and the chairman to draft a letter to the Grand Traverse County Commission expressing our concern that appointing a commissioner to the county representative position on the Beta board violates our understanding of the spirit and intent of the Beta interlocal agreement.
Support.
Any discussion? Any further discussion? Jamie?
Just want to reiterate that I'm hoping that we can put some boundaries around this, as if they don't,
Oh, the motion.
you know, if they do go through with this, that there will be consequences. If those consequences are us seeking alternate representation, I think we need to do that.
I would tell you that it'll be a very general letter. It'll be circulated to everybody as a draft. And Deb will send that out as he gets right back to her. And it'll be general enough, so I think everybody can agree on it. But if there's something somebody has a real problem with, I would ask that you call me personally, and we will do a rewrite. Because I think we need to get this out before the end of the week. Is that on that, everybody? Okay, all those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion approved 6-1. Thank you. We are now down to review of financials, Kathy.
Yes, for claims and accounts, last night you did get a late. It was 2 pages long. And I put an amended late on your chair today that had a paper clip with your budget amendments printed because I sent those today. I just want to explain the late amendment, and that is not the dollar amount or the vendors, those stay. It's the name of the person who's getting the building safety license renewal. I had the wrong engineer or inspector. It's actually Hedgecock. So I highlighted it for you so you know what you're looking at. And then the Fresh Coast on the same front page. This is training for Deputy Drzwicki and Klaus, not Strope and Keno. This is a reassignment training to help Klaus become accustomed to a new handler because Deputy Lott is relinquishing that responsibility, and I believe he's also relocating. So I just want to make sure we have the right deputy and the right dog for that training, and that's the only thing I wanted to bring to your attention. Then on page 2 of late, I do just want to bring to your attention, there is a reimbursement to Deputy Ryan Lott, a proposed reimbursement for items purchased over the years to maintain Klaus. And it's a kennel and the accoutrements that go with this very secure kennel for Klaus. It actually kind of belongs to Klaus because Klaus is being reassigned to Deputy Drzwicki.
And the reason I'm just bringing it to your attention is it does fall out of your budget rules, which are reimbursements should be submitted within the quarter. It's rule number 12. So I just want to bring that to your attention. This is something the sheriff has asked the board to approve. I just need to tell you that it does fall outside that rule, but it is ultimately up to you. And you'll see there's some other purchases in here to set up Kino, our new dog. We're going to get some nice housing for Kino in this group of. So any other questions for all the other claims? Because I have the file with me.
The chair called me today. I asked him if he would speak to that kennel. To us tonight.
Sure, I'd love to. It's okay from here. I'll just stand here. This is good. So basically, we're losing Ryan Lott, our deputy, who is going back to Alaska State Troopers. He's been phenomenal. He's our canine officer, our SWAT officer, but they're going to pay him $60 an hour to go back to Alaska. He's getting a $30,000 signing bonus. So he's going back up to the troopers. Troopers in this state make about $39 an hour. Conservation officers, $39 an hour. So wages wise, it's a wise move for him to go back. So he has a dog named Klaus, and Klaus is not even mid-year yet. He's got a lot of service life. We bought Klaus with donations, and Klaus has a kennel at home, modified kennel pieces and boards, plus what's called a gunner kennel, which is a heavy duty one you put in a car, transport around. Dogs can't find their way out. These shepherds are really intelligent. They know how to open latches and things. It's bizarre. So Ryan is leaving. He would like to sell us back what he should have had to pay for in the first place. He's got about $1,450 into this equipment. We had a golf fundraiser for the last 2 years, raised about $50,000 in order to pay for dog programs and veterinary. And what's happened is he went out, bought that, didn't get reimbursed. So I told the undersheriff, have him bring receipts in. Well, receipts are from 2021. Ryan is leaving. We need kennels to go out and replace those. I have to pay more money for them. So the reason I stayed here, thanks for having me up, is to explain why it looks like we're reimbursing for 2021 purchase. We did take tax off it. He shouldn't have paid tax, should have been tax exempt. So we took $78 off. I think it's, Kathy, it's about $1,325.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. He's burned, I mean, he doesn't need it. He's no longer a dog handler. He's got a wife and 5 kids. He doesn't need the kennel, we do. To me, it's a no-brainer, but I just want to be able to explain it. Thank you.
So either we're buying a kennel or a new kennel, or we're buying this one.
We're buying a used kennel that's cheaper, and it works perfectly good.
Trying to understand the position.
And we've got SWAT training all day tomorrow. I'll be at Camp Grilling at SWAT meetings the next day. In that we do this, sometimes they bring a whole bunch of canine dogs in these kennels, and they're all over. So one of the things on there's like a $35 tag that says Klaus on it. Simple things like that, but that's where how that is. I mean, it's just, we need the kennels. He needs to sell them. So I'm hoping you support that. Thank you.
And the sheriff is correct. There's donation money sufficient from the golf outings, which you approved in consent agenda, which I think is a really fine outreach program that everyone seems to enjoy. What's not to like about it, right?
We don't have to ask you for money for the canine now because of golf fundraisers. We're just now in the process of buying number 3. We have a second dog, which gives us a dog on night patrol, dog on day patrol, which is very valuable. That day patrol will be in the schools a lot, which is awesome, and doing PR events, and a night one will be on meth and fentanyl type things. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kathy?
I think too, these kennels, they're very more industrial because these are very smart dogs, as Sheriff said, and you spent $17,000 on Kino. It's an expensive dog, so yeah, you want to have a good house, and this one is Klaus's house.
Kind of a question, but more a comment. I remember in negotiations, we covered a thing where if an officer broke his glasses, we would help repair. And I see a broken watch that must fall into that same clause that they negotiated for.
It is in the union contract. Under Sheriff said in all the years he's been here, we've never used it. And it happened during tactical training and his watch flew off and everybody saw it.
We were doing taser training. I heard this smash on the floor and I looked down and Rocky Canoe's watch is laying on the floor. So I picked it up. We were done with the taser, you know, we're very physical, we're knocking each other around. I picked it up and I handed it to him. He looked at it, he stared at it, and the lens is broken right across the top.
Yeah.
Very unusual to have to replace something.
And his watch actually costs more to replace, but that's the limit of the contract.
Okay, well, that was my next question. Wow, okay. Okay. And then I see this Mitchell's, an annual fee for the towers to be on their property. Is that what it will be annually from here on out? Or will that be, is that just the 2023?
This was on the Omina Tower.
It wasn't prorated, or will this be the whole amount for, like, or will this be the amount for 24?
I did ask Matt Answorthy to provide me the backup information on that, but I can tell you that this is on the Omina Tower that we regularly pay
This
on.
isn't the new tower.
No, so
No.
you cost share with the current lease agreements that you have on the towers. And typically, if Matt can get it done nice and quickly and you get it today, normally you're seeing this the last meeting of the year.
Gotcha.
So he was able to get it a little bit earlier to you, because they calculate out the utilities, any repairs and any cost sharing, and that's their, per the agreement, that's their payment.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you,
No, that's
Kathy.
quite all right.
We're now down to committee reports, recommendations and resolutions, if you dare. Special reports by staff or commissioners.
Wanted to inform the board that we have extended 2 offers and they have been accepted. The one is for Leanna Wilson for the IT director to start January 1st, 2024. The second is for Gail Meyer to be the interim planning director. Based on the discussions that were held at the recent interview session that we had, allowing committee chairs to come in to give input, it was identified that there are, because of the transition with a couple different transitions that are happening, there's more discussions that need to happen before we can move forward with a formal offer for that position. Things like grant writers and what are our needs, and if we move staff around, what will the implications of that be? So there's a little bit more dialogue that needs to happen, but we have extended the offer to Gail until a planning director is named. And so she has accepted that. The rate would be at the lowest end of the planning director for that interim position.
Commissioner Roy.
At the airport meeting today, Steve Vermondon apologized to people, said he's sorry he's leaving the airport as our chairman. And he did know that we reappointed him, and he said, thank you, he loves his job and he appreciates it. I did pass the word to the airport did not pass it to Steve, but he's just a fantastic guy, and you people all received an invitation to come to the ribbon cutting ceremony for the instrument landing system on runway 10. We've been working on it for, I guess, 8-10 years now, but what a fantastic thing. That's 10:30. There'll probably be some representatives, or 10:30 Friday morning if you want to make
Is there snacks?
lunch after. Lunch is after, but you have your county.
Oh, yeah, I got things.
One report, request, statement, I guess, our organizational meeting is January 2. We had talked about doing that in the morning. We have to move that to the afternoon. We thought if people were willing, we'd start with a lunch and just have an informal lunch. And then we would do our organizational meeting business. And then we would take a break and we would hear from Dr. Stolten on the climate survey. He will have to support that.
So what time is it? The second?
So if we could meet at 1 o'clock for our organizational meeting, and we'll get plans for lunch before then, but probably, just sandwiches, something real simple if people want to do that before.
It'd probably be 12:30.
Is there any other day?
There's not one.
Why can't we start in the morning and you don't want to knock it out in the morning?
that school couldn't come in the morning, and our organizational meeting is usually quite short.
We just added a couple things up.
I'm not gonna be able to be in attendance. I'm going to Ohio. I have a once in a lifetime, two in a lifetime chance to see my egg babies from Italy. So,
Oh, the whole day.
oh yeah, their birthday's on the 1st, so. I might go see them.
The items on the agenda for the organization meeting that I have, and I'd ask you to send me any others, we need to elect the vice chair. We need to approve the 2024 rules of order. We need to approve the 2024 meeting schedule. And then we need to approve the schedule of continuation of monthly updates. In the rules of order, I made a note that we're going to address our committee structure and meeting times and calendar for that. And then we have any changes to our committees or commissions, but I think it's standard practice usually that unless people want to leave, assignments will stay the same. So if you want to move an assignment, I would ask that you let me know. And so that's my idea, but it's not my meeting, it's our meeting. Yes.
Then who's got the meeting notice?
That's for that is for.
On the 29th, is that on the
That's a
29th?
committee.
Oh, we didn't put it on organizational. Okay, good. All right.
So would you be willing to meet at 12:30, have lunch, start our organizational meeting at 1 or 1:15? Does that work for the clerk's office?
How about the fact that Jamie can't be there, sir?
Couldn't be there in the morning either.
The whole day is shot.
Yeah, I'm gonna be in Columbus.
Right.
I don't know how to address that. I mean,
You'd have to pick a different day altogether to make it.
But January 2nd feels a little. I think that's typical. I mean,
We can make it.
I know you guys.
I was just going to add an unsolicited comment. In all the years I've done it, it's very odd for you to have an organizational session when all 7 commissioners can't be present. Just for what it's worth.
well, what's your schedule that week, Jamie?
We are. I mean, I think on the 2nd we'll be traveling back. The 1st is the girls' birthdays. I mean, I'll be back on the 3rd. So
I have a
if you
finance
guys wanted to
committee
do it the
that
3rd.
afternoon already.
On the 3rd?
Yeah.
Is that okay or not okay? You're saying that in a good way or a bad way? Because
You'll
you're
be
already
here.
here.
If we did it in the morning, you'll be here.
Well, we can't do it in the morning because the idea is to get Schulten here.
Oh, gotcha.
So the whole idea is an afternoon meeting.
What?
to
No,
make-
I mean, I can be here in the morning. We'll travel back on the 2nd. So.
Can
the 3rd is
Schulten
wide
never be
open.
here in the morning? Or just on
Oh,
the
he
second?
can't make it.
He can't make it in the morning on the 2nd. He probably could in the 3rd. The meeting with the organization meeting, we talked about the 2nd a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
this wasn't on the table when they for me.
Well, I'm willing to take a suggestion if we want to move it to the 3rd or the 4th.
Well, if it's the 4th, you lose me.
Yeah, it's gonna start snowballing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
How about the 3rd? Does the 3rd
I
work for
have a 2
everybody?
and
Well, it goes
3.
back again to the finance committee meeting on the 3rd. And we actually have tried to arrange MSU to be at the finance committee meeting. I don't know if that's been locked down yet, but that was part of our discussions there. So we'd be moving us and
Well, what time?
Kathy, what is the, I'm sorry, what is the time for the finance committee meeting?
I've got 2:30 right now. Is that what you have?
Yeah, on the 3rd.
Yeah, so if we
I
did-
did not receive commitment from MSU that was, because wasn't Ms. Berkey gonna get back to us? And I have had no communication.
Can we follow up on that? with the 3rd?
Well, so if they started at 9:30 in the morning, we'd be done by 2:30. I'd have to be. done by 2:30.
Let me ask Jamie a question.
Yeah.
Jamie, you hear the agenda, you could get your concerns and ideas on the rules of order in advance. Do you feel strongly about being here for a meeting?
I mean, I think the potentiality of. You on my end, but I could possibly Zoom if you guys that is an option on the second. Because I would be en route.
You can't vote, but you can.
I can't vote, but I
you
can be
express
here.
Opinion. We did that with Commissioner Alkire.
That
right?
one.
I'm not 100%
The
sure.
only
if that
difference
follows the
is she'll
rules.
be
I
in
don't
the
know.
car.
With a toddler and a crazy 11-year-old.
I mean, if we, I mean, I guess the other thing is finance committee meeting on the 3rd from like 3 to 5. Just scoot it a half hour later.
And have our organization meeting on
And just-
on the 3rd.
Then do it, start at 12:30. That gives us 2 hours to get our organizational meeting done. Is that enough time?
Probably not. We can't count on that.
But
I think we should start
How long
sooner.
is he?
And Melinda has
So then-
Parks and Rec at the same time too. What time is Parks and Rec? 2 o'clock for a barn meeting, 3:15 for Parks and Rec. And I believe that started at
That's
10.
on Wednesday.
That's on the- I think it's set. What if we started at 10? Or 9:30? And then we would clearly be done for all these other things. And you'd have to see if Dr. Scholl.
I think you talked to him yesterday. I think he said he could come on the 3rd.
I believe so. I mean, if this is finance committee meeting at 2:30 on the 3rd and 10 a.m. Is that what I'm hearing? 10 a.m. For a organizational meeting?
And then break
I'm
for
good all
lunch.
day on the 3rd. There's nothing stopping me.
We can still do the lunch, break for lunch, organizational at 10, be done by 1:30. Do we need more than an hour for Dr. Schulten?
My guess is we're gonna want to have some discussion. I would say probably an hour and a half would be my assumption.
To be safe, we could start at 9:30. Just to be safe.
Darn, I thought we had this all planned.
Yeah, so did I.
I could be here at 8:30.
Well, if you would be willing to give me some flexibility to make some phone calls and then get back with everyone, but if you would please keep your schedules then open for the 3rd.
3rd, no?
The 3rd.
In the morning.
If we can make something work on the 3rd, we'll do it. If we can't, we'll work on the Zoom option for Jamie for the 2nd. Okay, Jamie?
That sounds great.
Okay.
The 3rd.
Here we go.
Well,
Thank you.
So don't get rid of the 2nd, but we'll,
right, right now you're holding
Yeah.
both the 2nd and the 3rd. Okay.
We now are at the portion of our agenda. Thank you all for staying. That would like to make public comment.
These work, I can't hear much out there either. Just thing, it's kind of unusual. We have a planning director. We have no ordinance at all for the county, no ordinance. And we have a plan with hundreds of goals, but nobody knows if their goals are ever achieved because we don't use the word objectives, because objectives impart the idea that who does what and when. So their goals are very nebulous. We never know. There's hundreds of them over the years, but nobody knows whatever was accomplished. The Sunday we had a sermon about hope. And want to then wish all of you a Merry Christmas season. And with that thought of hope, in our minds, it means that maybe next year we'll begin to do the right thing as a county commission. And as we requested before, to immediately prepare a comprehensive report to taxpayers identifying all unnecessary costs and harm done to people in the county building due to the Board of Commissioners clerical indecision of May 11, 2021. And that was, that word hope is helping me because a commissioner made a statement on Tuesday night with the following, I'll read the statement. Our finance department has been in disarray since it was ripped apart 2.5 years ago. And I absolutely support stipends because it is still not rebuilt. And I'm sure I don't want to be the person to stand in the way of rebuilding this, of what it needs to be. And if we are told at some point we need to hire 2 people, we were going to give Mr. Cohen 2 people, then we need to consider that as well. The last thing we should do right now is cripple something that has never been reconstituted after being ripped apart 2.5 years ago. So let's not stand in the way of what needs to be created to become a single entity. What we don't need is more walking. That gives me hope. Maybe we can convince the rest of the board to continue on. Because about a year ago, 2 commissioners publicly apologized for their part of their decision. That was the prior board in this. We need this board to wake up after January 1 to take the necessary action to be accountable to the people. Another point, grants have agendas. It's all taxpayer money. And it's all debt money that we all have to pay interest on. So we're happy to take it because somebody else will get it so we can increase our debt. And the question I have, what omniscience and omnipotence do we have here? Or do we possess over ordinary people that we're elected to represent with our fiduciary duties? I don't recall for almost everything this commission has done outside of the requirements of 46.11, people ever petitioning this board to do anything, except for a special assessment district, for a drain district or whatever. Everything these commissions have done over the years is self-initiated. The people don't come to you saying, we need this or that. You commissioners and other commissioners over the years have decided for them. And then you convince them that it's a good thing to pay more millages and be happy with it. And the millage elections are held in May when nobody goes to vote except the people that are proponents every year. So in the discussion today about the Energy Futures Committee, we witnessed a lot of adjectives, which is nothing more than emoting. We had one commissioner here, and maybe another one, trying to think dispassionately about what we're doing here. So I also want to raise the issue of convenient and inconvenient truths. Mr. Ashley raised the issue about the properliness of the vote on May 11, 2021. Yes, it followed some procedures, but it totally neglected the key elements of anything that would be done in the private sector and shouldn't be done at all here. That is, the clerk, before that May 1 vote, was never contacted. Nobody did ever discuss anything with the clerk about this issue of removing the 2 departments or the 2 functions from her office.
Thank you.
Nobody did it. So we want to make sure that we use be careful of convenient truths of the function.
Bill?
Again, we'll never be guaranteed of no fraud. I believe in every county in the country, machine fraud too. Without paper ballots one day, one person, one ballot, one vote, one day. Well, I'm sorry, I already started, huh? Can I just take off a little time for this? Got that. Bill Wiesner, Elmwood Township. And this is a powerful little handout that's going around here. It's Daniel Richards Fight. You can find this handout online and please pass it around, at daniel-richard.com. It's right on there. This is a real-time David and Goliath story of a man fighting the New Hampshire legislative body to preserve the rights of the people on elections. So I'm just kind of reading through this. So I'm right about halfway down. A 3-year long challenge of New Hampshire's electronic voting machines makes it to the New Hampshire Supreme Court. That just happened on, let's see, wait. The New Hampshire Supreme Court on scheduled oral arguments for November 29th. So it's already happened, 9 a.m. It went very well for Daniel Richard too. And he did very well. It's Daniel Richard versus Governor Chris Sununu, involving the executive and legislative branches of government repeatedly violating the voting rights of Mr. Richard and the people of the state. And I would say the people of the entire USA by altering the mandatory election provisions of the Constitution of New Hampshire established by the people. And it's altered by legislative fiat. It's a little confusing sentence there, but the case poses the following question. Who is a qualified voter in New Hampshire? Second one, who is qualified to vote absentee in the state? It was much more restricted. And that can't be changed just by the legislature or the executive. The third one, who is required to sort, count, and certify the votes of the towns in the city? It wasn't Dominion or election source. It was the legislature. Now, how can they just off that to someone else? On the back page, are voting machines constitutional in New Hampshire? When you put all this together, I don't think so. The next one, can the legislature delegate its lawmaking power under the state and US constitutions to an unelected body of bureaucrats, I'll put in, who never let you look inside their machines to see what's going on? The New Hampshire Ballot Law Commission to make election laws, including voting machine laws, and the ability to suspend state and federal election laws. And the last question, the use of vote tabulation equipment to conceal, it's a black box, to conceal an unverified and uncertified absentee ballot and the illegal certification of election results. Used to be, you had to get it notarized, those ballots. That's how it was written in the original documents, and that doesn't happen anymore. It says it's certified, but it's not. We'll move on to another article. It's there's a really good documentary coming out on about December 15th. I don't know the name of it, but it's on election fraud and the J6 pick prisoners. And this clerk, who is the head of all clerks in Colorado, wrote sort of a hit piece ahead of time about this. His name is Matt Crane. He's the head of all the clerks in Colorado. You don't have this. The executive board, he says, people must stand with your election administrators who are working on this every day and are telling you the truth about what happens every day. I don't doubt that the election officials think they're telling the truth, but they're trusting a black box. Mr. Crane here is quoted, he says again, but now is not the time for cowardice. Now is the time for people to step up with the truth. The truth is just go along with everything they say.
Thank you. Good times.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep. Merry Christmas. Oops. Where'd that come from? I don't know. Somebody say Merry Christmas. Or...
Okay.
Merry Christmas. All right, thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Go ahead.
Should I give a ho, ho, ho?
Hey.
Mine's no good compared to
Thanks, Bill.
It's okay. Go ahead. Carrie Onan, Centerville Township. I'll just say Merry Christmas on the front end, okay? Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, you guys. Okay, moving forward, I'm just gonna dig right in. Moving forward, assuming the board intends to continue using your current committee system, some of us are increasingly concerned about the integrity of this system. If I understand how it's worked in the, I guess, recent past, the monthly executive board meeting is where all the commissioners get all the information being presented or proposed. They and the public then have a week to do their due diligence, right, on these issues, proposals, recommendations, committee appointment recommendations, whatnot, before they're then voted on at the following week's General Board of Commissioners meeting. That's the way it looks, quite basically. So moving forward, we expect to see all committee recommendations go to that executive board. First, that sounds like and looks like the way it's supposed to go, so that all our commissioners get all the information. That also allows time for the public to become fully informed on these issues before they are voted on and ratified. If this board cannot or will not allow time for this to happen, then we expect you guys to do away with this committee system, which looks like a system that may or may not have the best interest for all concerned at its heart. So if you're unwilling to do it in an orderly fashion and take time with it, then it doesn't make sense to us to even have the system. That looks like a system that may serve a small portion of people, but not necessarily all of us. As it currently stands, it appears some members of this board are taking advantage of the committee system as it exists to expedite their own various agendas through special meetings, calling special meetings. They seem to be increasingly being called. And those seem to be to push through various agendas. That's the way it looks, okay? Ultimately, this is unfair to the very public who elected you. I'm sure you don't intend to do it that way, but it's so chaotic. It looks, it doesn't appear to be for the highest good of all concerned. It just doesn't. Every time, okay, so moving forward, we expect you to return to a more stable approach to governing. Giving all commissioners and your constituents full transparency and a reasonable time frame for all of you and all of us to do our due diligence on the many topics and issues you are tackling each and every month. It's astounding. I thank you every time I see you for all the work. But what we're looking for is something more consistent. This chaotic, rushed approach, it casts doubt on your governing. It flat out does. When we see the moment you guys rush a process or block transparency, you're casting doubt on your governing. We have to, our collective radar always goes up when we see something being rushed. It's not just me, I'm speaking for a lot of us, you know that. So no matter what the current crisis might be, it doesn't warrant that kind of rush. We want to see it slowed down. We experience the same sort of rushed approach at the state and national levels. We don't have much of a say in that, but we do here at the county level, especially with the people we've elected. So we're looking for a more consistent rotation of these meetings. I don't know if it's, the main ones seem to be the finance committee, the personnel committee. If those need to happen, I would think before the executive meeting, that makes sense. And given 7 days in between these meetings makes sense. To do it any other way looks fishy. It just does. So I know that that's not your intent. It's just the way it hits us. We're hoping that moving forward, you guys can really tighten that up, and maybe it falls a lot on the administrator to help guide it into something consistent where we can have some confidence in the governing process, because right now, boy, does it look slick. And I know you don't intend for it to look that way, but that's the way it appears. So we have great faith and confidence in you guys. And enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Love those boots.
Any other public comment? You can give me yours at the happy hour. Any commissioner comment?
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yep.
I want to thank those that stayed throughout the whole thing, and also, Carrie, you're always so pleasant when I see you out in the hall in the parking lot. We are going to address our committee schedule at your meeting, and I think collectively, we all share our concern of doing it right. I'm open for
Oh, we gotta approve,
oh, yeah, we gotta
More?
take care of business.
another hour, you'll be out of here, Jamie.
It's gonna be tomorrow before we know it.
Move to approve
Commissioner
amendment,
Lautner.
yes, amendment number 23-016, 23-017, 23-018.
Support?
Support. And is there anything anyone wants to know further about what these are doing?
I even practiced a speech on this.
Like to give it?
Well, just to let you know, the number 16 is general fund amendments to help us pay the Point Broadband bill. We're going to realize that revenue out of your ARPA deferred revenue. So this transaction, the 757,000, which is the second from the top.
That same amount that was in the late.
That's why you're late. That's why your claims are so big, because you have a $700,000 bill to pay to Point Broadband for cabinet number 8, I believe. So that's the big portion of it. Then the state allows us to, there's a set limit on the amount that a public employer can contribute to medical benefit plans. Your insurance fund number 677 isn't going to have enough money in it to pay the Blue Cross Blue Shield for November and December. So what we conservatively do every year when you adopt your budget, and we've done this for 2024, is we set by employee a rate of about $6,800 for a single person, $14,260 annually for a person and a dependent, or $18,596 for a family. That's what we always budget every year going into the next year. Then the year goes on and we're self-insured and we get our Blue Cross Blue Shield bills. And this year was a bit more expensive because we're self-insured. So the state has a limit we can move our budget numbers up to. And it's about, I'll just round a little bit. It lets us get from each budget $600 more for a single person that we move into the insurance fund. $1,200 more for 2 people, and about $1,600 for a family. And we can do that by a budget amendment for the next 2 months to get that money moved into your insurance fund. So we can make sure we can pay December.
How much over, Lorraine?
Well, on the last, let's see, about $413,000, because it's running about $200,000 a month. Isn't that about right, Jen?
Yeah. The bills used to come in about 155.
So what happens when you're self-insured is that when Lou was here, we certainly hope that our 20,000 stopgap covers those people that are in need of the insurance that's over the regular maintenance. But if we have it where you don't hit quite 20, you don't hit quite 20, you don't hit quite, you don't hit quite. So what happens is you can have multiple people just fall under that 20 instead of having, let's say, 5 that hit that 20, we don't pay anymore. So we saw the trend. I saw the trend in October. And so Kathy worked hard in November, and I told her we just weren't prepared yet to do this. Right now, there's $76,000 in cash. So without this entry, you will not be able to pay your November bill and then December as well. So we'll follow the trends. When Lou brings that to you, he's actually looking at a different calendar. Your renewal here at the county is February. So in February, you start right back over with, everybody gets a clean slate and there's no hard caps of that 20 until someone hits it. So it was just a year where we had multiples instead of like just a couple, that there was that stopgap. And it happens, that's the risk we take. We're very fortunate here that we're able to facilitate this the way that we do. In the past, Michelle and I always kept this very conservative. That's why Kathy's talking about the numbers we used for 24. You may come in 24 and not have to increase it. But that is that's how we would rather have you, because it's a cost allocation, be at bare minimum than put too much in, take too much out, put too much in, take too much out. So we try and keep it nice and steady. So we're moving this because the January bill won't come in, or the December bill will come in January 13th. And at that point, we can't help you if it goes over. December 31st is your cutoff.
Any other discussion?
That's okay. Cameron, did you have a question?
Well, $400,000 isn't a little amount. I mean, that's a lot.
It is to us. I mean,
It is
to
to
us,
me too.
no, to me, it's a little amount when I'm looking, yes. When we're talking health insurance. So when Lou was here, he told you if you had your full exposure on your stop, that's 2.3 million. What he doesn't explain is it's 2.3 million plus $7,000 a month for 12 months for each and every one of you that's covered. So we pay an admin fee and we also pay a stop loss fee. So we conservatively have had $6,800 for a single person, but just to insure them for the month is $7,000. So what it is because it's collectively, so let's say not everybody's on our health insurance plan, we budget that exposure is there. So we try and capture as much funding as we can for those that need it. Yeah. Oh, that's all right. Lou doesn't like to, typically when Lou comes, like when he met to your personnel committee and then he comes here, he tries not to dabble in these numbers because it scares people.
Yeah, I mean, that stopgap thing, I think, basically what she's saying is, so like you had one person who had $100,000 claim, that claim would be stopped at 20 grand because you have a stopgap. If you have 5 people have $18,000 claims, you still have a $90,000 bill because the stopgap doesn't kick in.
Correct.
Per person, but you still have the same number going out, but a whole lot more liability.
Yeah. So the county pays a monthly fee on those 100 people that are employed and on your subscriber, and then the 20,000 on top of that, if it's needed and up and over when each time you use the doctor. So as he said, he has seen the pharmaceutical skyrocket. We used to have pharmaceutical bills of 16,000 a month. This last one, I think, was 70. So it's and it's when it happens. So if you have situations where, let's say you're a quarterly person that gets your prescription, you don't see that every month. You might see it, down, high. So anyway, those are the numbers he gave you. So you're welcome.
Any other discussion? All those in support of the motion?
Anything else that you?
I know 400,000 does sound like a lot of money, but if the bills had been 150,000 in historical sense, but they've been 200,000, you get to 400,000 in 10 months.
Well, and Kiana, just something that changed.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It's something that changed a couple of years ago too, correct me if I'm wrong. We now incorporate our drug costs, which are very high. They count towards that 20,000, which has made a huge difference because we can get people there that are quicker. So if you've got an injection you take, I don't know, let's say every 8 weeks and it's 6,000, you're going to get to that 20,000 and then you're capped, so you're not looking at those. So yes, you are correct. It is a big number, but with the numbers we're dealing with when we look at health insurance compared to the real world, these are good.
Right. It's still a bargain.
Yeah,
18,000
right.
family with this coverage. I don't know. You could
Right,
it'd be
right.
$35,000 if they
Right.
need it.
Kathy and I would be coming to you if this was a $3 million deal, because yes, you're 800,000 over what we could even pull out to help, to offset the fees. So that would be a negotiation item. It would be that employees would have to start contributing. So we're okay.
In the last entry on the 2316, we are going to be moving some cash into dispatch because the tower revenue is not sufficient to cover this.
And you're outside our allocation, meaning the general fund has supplemented that much and we need that income and cash in that account. So when we increase the 911's benefits, we also have to supplement from the general fund that way. So that's that last item. Mhm.
Any other discussion?
This is not a hint, but I am packing my bag.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
All those in support of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved 7-0.
Move to approve fund transfer 23-008. Support.
All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
I would move to approve claims and accounts $1,041,342.44.
Support. All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved 7-0.
Move to approve post audit $2,578,435.38.
Support. All those in support of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Can I add an agenda item?
No, are you?
Merry Christmas.
Oh, we didn't get it